This is Susan Sambito interviewing Marguerite Wiswell on Friday, February 9th, 1996. We're in Mrs. Wiswell's living room in Colebrook, and Ellie Gooch is here. And I guess I'd just like to start by asking you what it was like growing up in a... Where did you grow up?
I grew up on this farm right here. See the picture?
Yes.
It's where Colleen lives now. Colleen grew up.
And that's where?
Hills Road.
Okay. And were you born there?
No, but I moved there when I was 3 and the rest of the whole.
Do you have any memory of before living
No.
at the farm?
3 when yes.
Where did your family move there from?
Just up on another farm. We had a big family, and my grandfather was running the Colebrook house, and he decided he wanted to farm. So we bought this nice farm up here. And as my father said, he wasn't a farmer. He put in a nice furnace, the bathroom, fixed it all up, and in a year's time, he persuaded us to move down there, persuaded my father, and he went back to the Colebrook house.
I guess if I could just ask you about your parents' names, and
This is okay.
they can just, if we can talk, and then, I mean, Mrs. Wiswell has notes here that she can read, but, I mean, what do you think? Should we...
Well, just kind of roll along,
back and forth,
unless you feel more comfortable about stuff.
I guess just do you talk about your folks and everything in there? I just
all about us. What we did in the evening.
Great. Okay. Are we going? What were your parents' names?
I am one of 13 children, 9 boys and 4 girls. We were brought up on a farm about 2 miles out of Colebrook. My father was born of Irish parents who no doubt left Ireland during the potato famine. My mother came from a long line of people famous as hotel people or innkeepers. She played the piano beautifully. She played for the silent movies, dances, the Grange, and for the church choir.
Did she do that here in town?
Mm-hmm. And at home. Mm-hmm. And no doubt she brought the culture to our family unit, but the responsibility and the accountability and trustworthiness was implanted or instilled in us by that Irish father, whose favorite expression when we had done something to disappoint him was, if you don't have them to cry over, you don't have them to laugh over. Even though he died when I was 10 years old and there were still 10 of us at home, he had so firmly instilled these qualities in us that we could carry on as a family unit. No such a thing as welfare or mother's aid to dependent children. I recall hearing my mother make this statement. She had put up 9 or 10 dinner pails in a lard pail for us probably for 20 years, that if the peanut butter sandwiches that she had made were stood end to end, that they would reach from coast to coast. You see, the schools didn't have any much programs there. Isn't it funny how your sense of values change as you grow older? When I first came down to Colebrook Academy from a district school, I pitted myself because I thought I was so poor. We had everything and didn't realize it. A comfortable home and a family who loved and cared for us. Oh yes, we had to work and we had to assume responsibility. Because our farm was handy from town, we always had plenty of village kids, as we called them, for company. And at night when we go home, we'd either have a wagon or sleigh, or we had an old truck later on, and it'd be all that could get into the vehicle, and the rest would be running behind. But all this company didn't let us out of our work. If they wanted to help, good, but we didn't play until our work was done. Now the reasons why the kids wanted to come to our farm was because we had a pony, we had a dog team, we had steers, Star and Swan, and we had a basketball court in the barn. In the spring, we spent a great deal of time in the sugar place. Now, do you want to ask some questions?
Well, this may sound funny, but I'd like to ask you about the dinner pails. Were they really pails?
Yes, they were. They were lad pails. A 10-pound lad pail was about that high, and a 5-pound one was smaller.
About 12 inches, about 8 inches.
They were decorated on the sides, that pure lard or something. And they had a cup, you see. Families bought a lot of lard, so you always had plenty of pails.
And your mother would make you peanut butter sandwiches. Mm-hmm. What else would you take for your lunch?
Well, she made cookies and made cake. We didn't have much fruit, you see, because at that time an orange was something you got in your stocking for Christmas. You didn't.
Something special.
But we must have had something good because when I fell and got hurt, they couldn't believe it. Didn't break a bone. He said, for God's sake, what'd you eat all your life?
Now, did you have milk from the farm?
Yeah, we had milk. We had our own potatoes, our own vegetables. And in the fall, my father would go down. Everything came in by train then. My father would go down to the station and buy 2 big barrels of apples. One was cooking apples, and one was eating apples. They would put in the cellar. And then we had all of our pickles down there and rocks and so forth. And our potatoes were in there. And we had in the fall, my father always killed 2 pigs. And we froze that meat up and we put it out in the back room. It was supposed to be animal food or whatever. And we wrapped it in newspapers. And my mother was very salty at the thaw because meat was full.
Did you have a wood stove? How did your mother bake?
Big wood stove.
With a door that she said she baked in.
On the end of the stove was a great big, we called it the boiler. And on the end of the stove was this tank light. We had hot water because, as I said, my grandfather had been there and fixed that farmhouse up pretty nicely. This was always full of boiling water from the wood stove. And we were fortunate. We had a big furnace to take our furnace in that farmhouse would take a 4-foot log.
Wow. So it sounds like you put out a
Great big old furnace.
Well, I know there were some other things
With some other things
that you mentioned.
See, at night, if the children came up from town, they were always asked to out to eat supper. My mother never cared if it was 1 or 2 or 10. If it wasn't 10 they are eating, we'd say, where is it? And the kids quite often would ask to stay for something. And after supper, she would play the piano and sing or dance.
What were your parents' names?
My mother's name was Marion Hartshorn Hughes. Hartshorn was the famous hotel people. And my father was Thomas Hughes.
And you were one of 9 children?
13.
You were one of 13. How many boys?
9 boys and 4 girls.
And you are the eldest?
I'm the 10th.
So now the girls, was the work allocated? Did the girls help out with the farming
Well, I
chores?
talked about that here. In our family, seniority counted. If an older brother or sister spoke to us or told us to do something, we had to mind or we had to obey. And being low on the totem pole, because I had a lot of bosses. And the village kids didn't quite understand our system. My father there's always not a lot of kids around. He'd speak to them once. And the second time he took them by the collar and Stephen Fancy put them to the bottom of the water truck. And he could name the men in town that he put to the bottom of the water truck. And he never had to put one down there twice.
Oh, I wouldn't think so.
and we never went down because we knew better.
Now, did the girls,
I went to school with my own sister in 1st and 2nd grade.
she was your teacher?
Yeah. There were 3 boys born, 4 boys born, then she was born. And then 4 more boys were born before I was born, and she always loved me dearly because she didn't have a sister.
Now, what was her name?
Minnie. She was named for my mother's sister.
And where did you go to school?
We went to a company school up in this where Judy Jakes lives now.
Oh, Judy Jakes' house. Okay.
See, we were nearer to town, but we had to go up there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when we had to go 8 grades up there, and we had to take a test to go to high school. We had to come down in the spring, take tests, and then we went to high school in the fall.
How did you get back and forth to South Hill?
We walked, and we had a dog team.
And so you go by sled?
Yeah, we either walked or took the dog team, and then there's some.
So your older brothers would drive the team, and we all did. Yeah. Wow.
And Dick raced the team out.
Now, would that be back? I've heard about Sliver.
Well, it was before Sliver. The first time that Dick raced, he raced some other kid that had one dog, I think. And the next year, Sliver had got his red setters, and Sliver always felt awful bad about it. They started downtown by Hicks's Hardware, and they came up to the farm, and came in around on the road by Francis Haynes, and down this way and back. And of course, our dogs went with the devil. Dick had to get them to town to start the race to begin with, and our dogs went with the Dickens going up there, and then they didn't want to go. and Sliver beat him by 1 minute or 2, and he fell off about it because here he was raced against the kid, and Dick didn't pay that much attention. And then the next year, they divided it, and they had a class, and Dick raced from Bank and Colebrook out to the where Mankey's living back.
They had winter carnivals every year?
Yes.
That was an exciting, fun time.
Yes, we had all 4 classes in high school had a float. My class was 1 of 5, so they had brought back the old-time fiddlers and the old-time dances, and there's an old man out in Kidville named Mr. Rob McKay, and we got him to play the fiddle on the float and the coachman on the horseman vehicles and sleds. And we did Virginia Reel, and we got a prize.
Okay, jumping, but you talked about in the evenings you would sing and dance, and your mother would play the piano.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the religion. The responsibility of religion all was from my father, because my mother really wasn't a Catholic. And so he took the time to teach each one of us our prayers. And how many children today do you imagine would fight over whose turn it was to go to church Sunday? But you see, we couldn't all go because there was a lot of farm work to do, and there wasn't room in the buggy or the sleigh or the car for us all to go, so we took turns. And as I got older, I often wondered if it was because we were religious or if we just wanted a chance to go to town, because we weren't allowed to go downtown and run around and get in trouble.
And it would also be a chance to wear nice clothes.
Yes.
Get dressed up.
And about where the money come from. We each had 10 cents to put in the plate. Because in those days, 10 cents was quite a bit of money.
Was there a Catholic church?
Yeah, we went to Catholic church.
Was that on Cooper Hill?
Yeah.
Did the priest travel from somewhere else?
Well, no, I think he came from Stratford.
On Sundays.
They had priest.
He wasn't interesting? Or?
Well, he was a man. And later on, I think they had to send him away for treatment. We got him money, but we always had French Canadian priests, which we shouldn't have had, because this church was built by Irish Catholics.
In Colebrook.
Because my father wanted us all brought up as Catholics, so we were. But my mother played the organ in church, and my older sister married a man that wasn't a Catholic, and we said she wasn't good enough to play the organ in church.
You said that about your mother?
Yeah, so that kind of. But we all were brought up Catholics because he wanted us. He died when I was 10 years old, and we still on the phone.
So you made your first communion and all that, and confirmation, and
everybody in our family was part of Catholic. But my mother, wasn't Catholic, and she thought that she kept his wishes, but then she thought if we wanted to go to another church, we should. Some did, some didn't.
Did you say prayers? Did you say grace before eating? And
no, we didn't, but he taught us some prayers. We did get down on those whole floors at night and say them.
Your bedtime prayers? Yeah. Well, that was one thing I had wanted to ask you about was church.
I was going to tell you that I was surrounded in a family by boys, as you can guess, and I had to learn to play baseball, basketball, and football and be killed. And my mother would say to me, "Go and play with them if you want to, but don't come crying to me if you get hurt." So I'd play a while, cry a while. One of my older brothers brought us some boxing gloves, and so in the evening after we got through our chores, we boxed. And my brother Dick, you know him, Dick?
Yes.
We'd box until I was ready to drop, and he'd say, "That's the end of round one. Rest up to the next round."
So there were 2 sets of gloves. You each had a set of boxing. Now, where did those come from?
Well, my older brother Arthur, you see, was so much older than we were that he had a son that was our age. Harry, who was my age.
Okay.
And so everything he bought for Harry was an only child. He would bring to the farm, like he bought the boxing gloves, he bought a bicycle, and he bought the pony, and anything that Harry had, he sort of shared with us.
Now, did you ride the pony?
Oh, yes.
Did you have other horses?
Yes, he had. My father raised horses. He raised his own horses.
So you rode them for fun and.
Not the work horses, just the pony. I mean, we had what we called the driving horse. That was the one that we took the milk down in and went to school with. A small wagon. And then we had 4 horses to do the family.
Now you talked about not being allowed to go into the village much. So you would go to, well, you went to school out of town. On what occasions would you go into town?
Well, we went, when we were smaller, the only time we went to town was on, we might go down Saturday night and go to movies, or we go to church Sunday, but the other boys went.
Mm-hmm. Where did you go to the movies? Where the movie theater?
Well, the theater was there at Lambert's.
Okay, the house you're on?
Yeah,
that was? Right.
One of my brothers was manager there after a while, and then one of them ran the movies.
Oh, really? Ran he was the projectionist?
Yeah.
Now, were these silent movies or?
In the beginning, they were.
And
I can remember when they put in the talkies, we called them. They were pretty thrilled.
Do you remember the first time you went to a talkie?
Mm-hmm.
What was it?
That's one kind of what it was. It slipped my mind.
You'll think of it. Now, did your mother play at the theater then?
She played. They used to have a piano player for the silent movies, and she didn't play all the time, but she used to fill in if the girl that played wanted a night off to sing.
Do you know how she thought of what to play as
they were sort of. They were very adept at playing because they'd been brought up on silent movies. The horses were galloping, they pounded, and then if it was soft, but
yeah. And so, did you get to go to the movies pretty often?
Not often.
How much?
Well, after my brother took over, he used to give us a pass once in a while, but we worked out on the farm. Come night, we first go to bed.
Yeah. Did you do farm tours too?
I didn't.
No.
See, I always wanted to, but I couldn't because there was a scarcity of girls being posted.
Okay, so the boys pretty much did the milking and the barn chores, and the girls helped inside.
Would you like to have me read a little bit about
Sure.
my father?
Sure.
Now, my father, who had very little education and a hot Irish temper, sometimes had crude methods of discipline. He died at the age of 57. These are some of the things that he gave us, which helped us to have a great sense of responsibility and able the 13 of us to pass them on to our families. He knew and would show us where to find the first Mayflowers. And where to find the first ripe strawberries, where the cat had hidden her kittens in the haymow, where the robin was building her nest. He could make a musical instrument out of a cigar box like a violin. He taught us how to walk on stilts that he'd made from us, and he made us scooters to slide down the hills in winter from barrel staves. At night he taught us the Irish songs which my mother played on the piano, and all kinds of card games and match tricks, and then he would show us how to mend our own mittens and stockings. He helped me bring up a baby lamb in a bottle. He could gentle a new colt, or he could tend a sick cow. Monday was wash day. He laid out the farm work for the boys, and then he helped my mother do the laundry for this big family. He made soap in a kettle out back. I wish that I had one of the dolls that he could carve from a piece of wood. You didn't need a convertible to go on a picnic with him. He could point out more interesting things about nature than you could ever read from a book. In return for all this love and companionship, all he ever asked of us was to be honest, truthful, responsible, and kind to one another. And with his Irish brogue, he would say, there were 2 kinds of Irishmen, lace skirting and shanty. Just make up your mind which one you're going to be.
He had an Irish brogue?
Yes.
No, you said his parents came over from Ireland.
Yes, I did.
Like, did he ever talk about that?
No, not too much.
But he was a boy?
Well, he was born in Canada.
Oh.
The whole family was born up there, and then they migrated down here, and they migrated down to outside of a Lost Nation outside of
Was your dad a redhead?
No.
Okay, I wanted to ask you that.
The boys in our family have a look like that.
Did he die suddenly?
Well, he had pneumonia, and in those days, you see, they didn't have any way to combat it. And there was no hospital, and the doctor used to come at night, and they used to bring in a snowmobile, the wheels and the runners on front, and they said that they reached a crisis in those days, and he reached the crisis and passed it, and he was supposed to have been getting better, but They said he'd always worked on the items hatches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, who was the doctor?
Dr. Lewis and Dr. Roger was kind of a doctor, and he had a nurse. The nurses used to go and stay in the homes with the people, nurse people in those days.
So when you children were sick, did the doctor come?
Well, you saw the doctor come in, you want to know who died.
Oh.
You doctored yourself.
You kind of doctored yourself. It sounds
kind of doctored yourself.
Now, you said your father made soap out of...
Well, lime and grease in a great big black kettle out back, and that was used in the boiler to boil this white clothes in, and also to scrub the floors, because our floors were hardwood white clothes.
Mm-hmm. And you said you would help your mother with the laundry?
He did.
He did. How did, what kind of contraption?
Well, they had a washing machine, they called it, and it was made out of wood, and you turned the crank, and it worked just like the washing machines today. Instead of plunging it, stir the clothes up, and then they take them out and have them run them through cold water, and she had glue in that she put in the water, and hang them out, so he always helped do that on them.
And with so many children, and in the wintertime, you must have...
Well, in the wintertime, we didn't lose you. They change clothes the way they do today.
Right.
You had one outfit more a week.
Right.
And you had blankets on your bed, and you probably had them washed about twice during the winter.
Now, what kind of thing would you wear to school as a young girl?
Well, we didn't have this. I don't think the kids had as nice clothes as we had at school today. We had some boys, I think, had what they call jocks and pants. They had the boots, the bean boots. The girls had skirts. They didn't have pants, and they had gaiters that came on over and over you, buttoned up the side. The snow was always getting up in here.
Oh, with all the buttons? Yeah. Is that what they were?
They had buttons. They didn't have zippers.
Mm-hmm.
It was always coming unbuttoned. And you wore long underwear too.
Right, under your...
Way down, and no matter how you folded it, it always showed.
I think my grandmother used to call those snuggies.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you wear pinafores or
No,
jumpers or anything? You had skirts and blouses, and
so.
Did you have special school clothes that you had to get out of when you got home?
Yes, we did. Then we got home, we took off our clothes and changed into work clothes.
Yeah, I had school clothes too, but kids don't have school clothes anymore. Yeah.
I take a shower every day and wash my hair every day.
Yeah.
And they have more distinctions than we had. But I think we had just our own germs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't make you see too much what the kids did in King High School.
Now you went to, so you were, was it a one-room schoolhouse kind of thing? A lot of other children, or?
I think that school used to run about 15 or 20. It was all 8 grades.
8 grades.
We were very fortunate. We had 2 very outstanding teachers. We had Marion Daly, who died just a few years back. We had Wayne Gray, and then we had a teacher who still, and she set up a big scholarship at Colebrook Academy at Marguerite. She came only taught a half a year, and then she went back to school. I helped Mr. Mills set up the scholarship.
And she's still living?
Because she's still living. I think she's in a home outside of Littleton.
Now, you must have had inkwells and that type of setup. Did the younger children sit up front?
Yes, you didn't have inkwells. We got the 5th grades, I remember.
Okay.
And the way the chairs were set up, they were desks. There was one for 2 each. There was a seat, and then down front there was one. The desk wasn't put in front of the front seat, because that's where you went down to the side.
Okay. Did you have a blackboard?
Yes, 3, 4 blackboards.
Did you?
There were no lights in those country schools. We were taking them lots of times, and things would be almost pitch dark by 3 1/2 hours.
So you have to go.
Well, no, we can go. Say we do something. I forgot what we did.
Did you have programs at school where the parents would come and you'd recite, or?
Yes, we did. We had a Christmas one. Once in a while, we had a Thanksgiving one, and we never did Halloween or anything like that. We just did Christmas.
Did you used to have to? I'm sure you probably had to memorize poetry and things like that. And
we had little plays, and one Marion Daly had a record player, and we did the Virginia Reel, and we had a long moon hour, and we didn't have any hot lunch. We each go out and slide on the hills.
Mm-hmm.
One teacher we had, Marion Bennett, I think she was glad to get rid of us. We take a new now. We'll come back and put time with school of balls.
Would she scold you? Or?
Well, yeah, she scolded us, but she was pretty laid back.
She was not so strict. I imagine teachers back then would be very strict.
Well, Marguerite was very strict. I know they used to let the children. Things about me.
But back then that was pretty common. Yeah. Did you ever get wet?
I got my leg switched. Whispering. Hell of a good one night. We got our legs switched.
Would your parents find out if you were naughty in school?
We didn't have film.
Your brothers and sisters wouldn't?
Well, sometimes they tell us, but my brother Charlie, and my brother Stuart got in a fight in school. We had this old teacher that I was telling you about, the other one, and Maria, that left in the middle of the year, and they couldn't find anybody to take that place, and they got this Emma Harriman. She was just a elder. He probably wasn't half so old as I am. And she drove back and forth with a horse and taught. And my Charlie and Stuart were 7th and 8th graders, and they went down to 7th and 8th grade geography class. And they got down and they got in a fight right in school. And they squared off, went right at it. Oh, I was so ashamed.
Oh, dear.
I was so ashamed and embarrassed. And I hot-plugged it right home, told them.
Now, what happened? Did they get in trouble?
Well, when my father came in from the barn, my mother told him. He took them out in the shed and he took a shingle and took them by the hand. Every time they went round, he hit them on the butt with it. So I never knew till years afterwards that they caught her, but this little O'Brien was in the same class they were, and she smelled terribly. And they took turns sitting beside them. And Charlie said it was Stuart's turn. Stuart said it was Charlie's turn. They got to fight over.
Oh, dear.
Because they couldn't tell what they were fighting over. So.
Well.
And so, anyway, they punished me. I lived in that farm with all those boys, and my punishment was they wouldn't play with me. So it's all this time that they wouldn't play with me because I tattled on them.
Now, were there kids who I don't know how else to put it, were there rich kids? Or was everybody pretty much in the same boat?
About the same, I think. You know, there was no money in those days. You lived in a farm, and you had plenty to eat, you had food, and you were warm, and you wore a lot of hand-me-down clothes, and, you know, everybody was very happy. We all brought our dinner to school, and I didn't know as I remember any awful rich ones.
The kids in town and...
Well, then when you came to town, it was...
When you went to high school? Did you meet new kids then? Were there kids you hadn't gotten to know?
No, yes, of course, because we didn't go to town too much. I knew Marguerite.
I was going to say,
yes, I knew Marguerite. I spoke about that when I spoke at her retirement party.
I remember that. I enjoyed that.
And I knew her because I used to see her on the street, and she'd come up the farm once in a while, but I didn't know too many, and all at once I was very popular. Oh, popularity was overwhelming, and my mother took me to one side, and she said, now look, don't let this floor you, because she says, these girls were all inviting you to their home and so forth, but she got a lot of brothers, and they want to be invited up here. And it was true. It was true.
That's funny.
My brothers went before me, they sort of paved the way, I guess.
So, now when your older brothers had... What was it like to have girlfriends? Did they call it courting? What was that all like?
Well, you see, there was Charlie, my brother Charlie, that went on the theater. He went with Frances, and of course she lived way out in Buggy in those days. That was a long ways off. So if she was in town, she would come up and spend the night with us, you know. And Stuart never married. He was the one that was in the wheelchair. And Dick was younger than me, so he. The girls like Dick. He was tall and good looking. Mm-hmm. They chased him, and then Virginia and Calvin.
Okay, why don't you...
I think I told you most of that.
Okay. Let's see here. Now, you had your sister. You said your first 2 years in school, and then we talked about the other teachers that you had. Now, when you went to high school, did it make you feel shy?
Yes, when I went to high school, I used to pity myself about up school, and we had one outfit. I said to Frances once years later, I said, we only had one outfit, didn't we? And she said, yes. And I said, well, we didn't have deodorant. We must have smelled terrible. She said, well, we must have all smelled alike. And we'd have these dresses with serge, they call them, the wall. And Saturday morning, you had to take that dress and turn it wrong side out and sponge it, put it out in the lawn. So you should see we didn't use any deodorant. So
Yeah.
come spring, they must have been pretty smelly.
Did your mother make clothes?
My mother didn't, because she didn't have time.
Yeah.
All she had time to do was cook. But in those days, there was a woman who used to come around to your house. It was Evelyn Lewis's grandmother. And she'd come twice a year. She'd come in the spring, and she'd make you summer clothes, and make pajamas for the man or the boys, and then she'd come in the fall and make you new clothes. And she'd stay right at your house, and you'd get the machine out and turn your dining room into a sewing room, and my mother had to get the cloth and do stuff ahead of time. We always looked forward to having her come, because she would play games with us in the evening, play card games with us.
Now, where would your mother go to buy all the yard goods? Right in town?
Yeah.
And she'd just go, she must have had to have bought an awful lot.
Yeah. Well, you see, my grandparents ran the Colebrook house, and they brought up 2 children. We used to get their clothes, girls. And of course, boys, I guess they, I don't know whether she made shirts for boys or not. I can't quite remember.
Your mother's parents ran the Colebrook house when you were a child?
And we went there at Thanksgiving. We went there and got a picture of us. And we went to church in the morning, then we had a big dinner, and they'd bring up stuff from the Colebrook house, and we'd cook stuff, and then in the afternoon we'd have a tree and play games and whatnot. That's what we did.
You said you didn't have lights on your tree.
No, we didn't.
Okay. Now, can you tell me about your Christmas tree decorations?
We made them ourselves, and we, you didn't have the paper and all the field stuff available there is today. My mother would buy us some red tissue paper, white tissue paper, and you just take the red tissue paper and fold it over and paper cutting and put that on the tree, and then we'd cut corn, and we'd string that and put that on the tree, and string cranberries and put that on the tree. Those are decorations. Some people put lighted candles on the trees, but we were never allowed in the house. We were very dangerous.
Were there fires? I mean, I know that was the custom, but
I don't know. We never were allowed to do it.
Oh.
And we never, because we were a big family, we didn't have much money, but we would, my mother would get each one of us one thing, and we'd have us talk in the night before, and we'd have like an apple or an orange or something like that, and never nuts. And we'd have one toy and one piece of clothing usually.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a woman told me, Lena Dixon, that would be Donald Dixon's grandmother. She told me that she went to call on my grandmother down at the Colebrook house once before Christmas, and my grandmother had 2 rooms way up on the 3rd floor that weren't being used, and she had got these. In those days, you had soap coupons came with every bar of soap, and you could send them in and get an Indian blanket. And she'd send, because being at the Colebrook house, they had used a lot of soap, and she'd send in and got Indian blankets, and had taken those Indian blankets and made us all bathrobes. And they laid out on the bed up there. She said she thought there was 7 or 8 of them. And then my aunt, this Aunt Minnie that my sister was named for, lived with her mother at the Colebrook house. And she had, those slippers that you can crochet.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a pair of slippers to go with each bathrobe.
Now, were you children able to give Christmas presents to your folks or each other? You couldn't possibly have given them.
I don't believe, it doesn't seem to me as if we did. Maybe as we got older we did, but there wasn't much money in those days. We could make things, and we used to make things, But,
Would you sing carols, and did your mother play Christmas carols?
Yes, we sang.
Did you have Christmas vacation then from school?
Yes, we did.
Kids do now? And
quite a lot of vacations, I remember.
We would look forward to that, I'm sure.
And there was another vacation that we had that was quite important. The teachers in those days didn't have any degrees, you see, and they had a winter school for the teachers in Whitefield, New Hampshire, and all the teachers in this area would go down there for 3 weeks in the spring of the year and take horses. And we had 3 weeks off right at sugar time. Of course, the sugaring time was a big time in our house. And my mother told me in later years that the thing that worried us the most when my father died was how we were ever going to do that sugaring without him.
Yeah.
And our dogs, from our dog team, my mother told me that they were just as grief-stricken as we were when my father died. She said they went back to the stove and they stayed there and they did it right around. They just sensed there was something wrong in the house.
So did your brothers take over the sugaring on their own? Everybody, I was listening to the radio last night and they talked about how the machines, it used to be that parents needed the children to help with paying and sugaring and so forth, and the machines did away with that need, and that's how we've lost a lot of what we used to have. Yeah, I mean, I never thought of that, but just, and then so now children aren't learning about those things anymore. I mean, gradually it's just all kinds of slipped away.
The last day of sugaring, is it Sweden? The last day of sugaring, you have your nice runs, and in the end you had what they call the black strap. And the black strap you could sell to somebody that came around or some company. They used to put it in the cigars. The black strap, that would be the non-fat sugar. And then we'd have the next Saturday, we would have clean up the sugar place and wash all those buckets. And we had about 300 buckets, something like that. We had to wash all those buckets. They heat the water in the stove and they boil the syrup. And we'd wash the buckets and take up rags and have paper towels. And we would wash all those buckets and put them out to dry. Oh, it was such a hot job. And then stack them. And then they'd stack the wood for the next winter, the next spring sugar. And then we'd come home. And that night he took us all to movies. That was our day.
Yeah. You know what, Ellie reminded me, I haven't asked you about dates at all, and I guess I should just get a few down. What year were you born?
I was born in 1912.
And what year did your dad die?
Well, I think he died when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
22.
And you graduated from high school?
And 29.
Now, you know what I'd like to ask, because I'm curious. Did you have long hair? Did all the girls have long hair?
No. Short hair.
You did? Who cut it, your mother? Or
My father used to cut the boys' hair, and I think probably he cut ours for a while, and we probably, as we grew older, we went to down the street. We used to go to the barber shop and that one that he had dresses.
Did you have short hair because that was the fashion? Or it was?
Well, I went to school with I'll show you a little picture. I went to school with these Goodman girls. They had long hair. Oh, and did them so. I had long hair.
I don't know.
Is this Judy Jakes'
I
house?
thought we were supporting, but we're pretty well dressed.
Oh, look at those handsome kids. Now, this would this
that
be
was one of our sled dogs, and that's the other one.
What kind of dogs were they?
Well, this one, they were just dogs.
Yeah, okay.
This was a collie. That's Kathleen.
Uh-huh.
That's Virginia, the one just come in.
Okay.
That's Dick.
Yeah.
And I've got on gloves and a hat with a pom-pom and a scarf.
Look at that hat.
And this was look at the windows.
Now, this is Judy Jakes' house here?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what? He was handsome.
Yes, he was.
Who took that picture? How did this happen?
Wayne Gray died, and he had a little small picture of that. And Helena Gray called me up, and she said, I got a picture of you, Sam. I said, you have? And so we had it enlarged, and I gave one to each one of us.
Isn't she adorable?
See, there she is. And these are these Goodwin girls. And you see their great big long braids? Envy them so.
Oh.
That's Melvin. That's Selma. She's Mrs. Fogg. And this was the one that was married to Tuffy Lyons. And that's Kathleen. This was in front of our house. I'm laughing about something.
Yeah. When I was little, I always had short hair and I always wanted long hair, and I'm always interested in, I don't know why, that's a funny thing. But
it's funny, Audrey and I was just talking about that, and she said she saw an people redheaded boy down in the Verdias, and I said, so, they used to always notice the redhead, and they talk to you and say something, he used to embarrass me so. be a redhead.
Were you the only redhead in the whole?
No, Charlie had red hair and I had red hair.
No, was it really orange? Was it that
No,
kind of?
no, ours was a pretty nice shade.
Yeah. Oh.
Arthur's was, and my mother had red hair, and when it turned beautifully. Charlie's, of course, was red and curly. Mine was red and straight.
Now, did you, when you went to high school, you started playing on the basketball team? You meant you'd played at home and learned the game and so forth, and then they had a team in high school, and was that a pretty big deal? And
well, I've often said that when I was in high school, we were the worst basketball games that the Colebrook Academy's ever had. They were just awful, both the boys and girls. And I was captain of the basketball team the last 2 years. I played all 4 years, I think. And they were beginning to improve when I got to be about the juniors team.
would you practice and play in the town hall?
Well, we had to pay for the use of the town hall. And it was terrible. We paid over $100 a year for the use of the town hall to practice basketball and play games. Isn't that awful? And so this Mr. Woodrow had 2 girls that played the same team I played on. So they thought up the idea it'd be nice to put an article in the town warrant to give the high school the use of the hall free of charge. Lord,
Big fuss?
big fuss. All these town fathers, why that was ridiculous to use that place and blah, 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 blah. We used to have candy sales and food sales and whatnot to pay for the use of the hall to play basketball. So that finally went through, but it was just if nobody else wanted it at that time. Oh, the man that kept the flyers, we meet him coming over when we started the practice and we played in that office. Oh, freezing cold. And then we'd have to walk home way up and down. And the way we did it, one night the boys practiced, and I took the team and went home, and they walked home. We had to take a bag of meal home every night or take the milk cans home or something. And then the next night, the other group practiced, and I'd have to take the team and go home, and they'd stay down for it.
Did you have away games?
Yes, but we went, the first away game I went on, I think I must have been a sophomore or something, and I got up that morning up to town 5:30. We came to school, and we took a train, went down to Stratford. We waited for the Grand Trunk to come. The Grand Trunk took us from Stratford to Berlin.
Oh, my.
The Berlin kids took us, each one took a person. And the girl that took me was named Lillian Hanson. She lived way up in the Norwegian village, and we walked clear up there. And then back to the game, and I remember the gym was hot, and we only scored 8 points. I don't even remember even getting my hands on the ball.
Oh, my. I'm sorry.
Then the next day we came home reversed stuff.
What kind of uniforms did the girls wear?
Well, we didn't have nice uniforms. I got a nice picture of one of my red hairs. I remember I gave the Historical Society. We didn't have any uniforms, and we wore bloomers and blouses, and we had this wonderful teacher that had such a great influence on all of our lives, Betty Headley from North Conway, and she decided that we should make some uniforms. So the parents came over to the home ec room, and we made these uniforms. They were made out of sateen, black sateen pants, and green tops, and pants came down to here, and we wore long black and white, green white stockings came up to here, and all the people in town were horrified.
So the pants were above your knees,
Yeah.
and the socks came to below your knees. So your knees were...
We were showing our knees.
And that was
That
scandal.
was pretty scandal. Quite a scandal.
Did you have sneakers?
Yes, we had sneakers. Sneakers, not like they have today. And then we started in, and the school had a contract with Lester Brackett, who would be Paul Nugent's grandfather. He sold cars, and he had a contract with the school, and he'd take 3 cars, and the boys' team and the girls' teams would go in those 3 cars. And just about that time, they started plowing the roads between Pittsburgh and Kingman and Stratford. And they had the contract, and he'd have these 3 men, and the roads weren't plowed or anything. We just got in the cars and went.
Cars. Did your family have a car? Your dad?
Well, we had a car, but most everybody in those days drove their car until the 1st of January, and you'd come down to the New Year's ball and hope you'd get home without being caught, put your car up, you didn't get it out.
Now, what was the New Year's ball?
was held at the town hall, and everybody went and celebrated.
All ages?
Mm-hmm.
Whole families, little kids, and people would bring food or how?
No, just go after the They didn't start things till late then because you see, everybody had to do chores in those days. Now everything started at 8 o'clock. See, because you have to get ready and then drive to town.
Oh, that sounds exciting to me, and that it must have something that everybody would really look forward to, and you got dressed up.
Oh yes.
And what was the music?
Well, when I was in high school, we had a very good basketball team, good orchestra. Helen Brackett played, and Lawrence Warren, and Pickles Coble, and Lyndon Woodrow. And they had a nice little. They used to go all over everywhere for a while there playing, and they played school dances. Then when they had a big dance at the town hall, they'd have this famous guy Dunbar from. He came from St. Johnsbury. He always played for the. He played the graduation ball for years and years and years. And at the last dance, he'd always take his violin, come down on the floor, and play the violin waltz around with all the people. And the parents always went and sat up in the balcony and watched him.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother's parting words was always, "I don't want to see you dancing too close."
Now this would be a violin, and piano, and
the saxophones and the horns. Nice band.
And this was, you knew the music from what you learned at home, or did you have radio?
Well, my mother, see, we had a brother living in Boston, and every little while any new songs come out, he'd get the sheet music and send it to us. So we always knew all the new songs. And the kids that came to our house knew them because we always sang a lot.
Did you have a radio?
Well, the radios didn't come in until I went to high school in 1929, and just before that, the first radio in town that I knew of, they had it with the routine thing. They had it over the high school. Somebody had got it, and I used to invite people to come over that night. You put earphones on, just walk, and you wouldn't hear much, but that was the beginning.
And then, was radio more common before you grew up? You were still living with your mother?
Oh, well, we finally had a radio. I still got a radio. My brother was operated on in the meantime in New York, and had to go into a wheelchair, and he got one. He worked on them, and we used to have one at home. We had just 2 sets of earphones. So you take turns. Your ears got sore, and you get to put stuff on.
Yeah. Now, your brother had an accident?
Well, we never knew whether he got hurt once in the van awfully bad. He got hurt once playing basketball, and they never knew what it was, but it was an injury on the spine. And he doctored with a he doctored with the doctors in Concord. Just hang on. Here we go.
Okay.
Well, I've got the whole story of him.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
If you want to copy that and say taking it down. Audrey wrote it for high school once, and they wanted to send it in to the Reader's Digest or something, and he was still living. We didn't want to send it in.
Now, this is your brother Stuart.
Yeah.
And he was older or younger than you?
He was older.
Mm-hmm.
You want to read it or take it or what?
How about
just let me read it?
He doesn't say. Why don't you do it? Yes, before.
Mr. Young was a teacher. I don't know if you know him, but you know him, Norman Young. And he called me over to school and wanted to see this, and he wanted to send it in, but so it was still in it. 5 weary boys with perspiration glistening on their backs ran triumphantly from the floor. The game had ended with Colebrook 6 points ahead of their opponents. The quintet had every reason to be proud as this final game had made them the non-country champions. The last boy to leave the floor was a tall, good-looking boy with a smattering of freckles that contrasted somehow nicely with his dark hair. He stopped at the top of the stairs to speak to his brother, reminding him to wait for him before leaving for the dance. Going into the basement, he made a quick change and returned to join his brother. Running down the steps, he heard someone remark that the thermometer had dropped to 10 below, just as he felt a sharp pain tear up his leg. Glancing down, he noticed a frozen rut had been responsible. Paying no attention to it, he jumped into the ancient Model A and headed to the dance in high spirits. When chore time came at 5 the next morning, he jumped out of bed with the usual enthusiasm that he met every day. The attic room he shared with 2 of his brothers was cold, and when his feet made contact with the icy floor, he felt again sharp pains run up both legs. He immediately dismissed them as lameness from the night before. The farm on which he lived was in a beautiful location, high on a hill overlooking a bubbling brook, blind with Aldous, which the natives know as Beaver Brook. Although their father had died more than 10 years ago, the 9 boys had taken pride in the farm and had kept it in excellent condition. Coming into dinner, he admitted the pains in his leg were worse and now extended into his back. At 3, he called the owner of the local movie house and told him he would be unable to operate the movies that night. His mother was very concerned over her son, but he refused to allow her to call the doctors. 3 days and nights passed with the pains increasing. On the 4th day, the doctor came and ordered him removed to his grandfather's hotel in town, where he could be constantly observed. A month passed without any diagnosis, and finally the doctor advised specialists. Can you imagine the effect that this would have upon his widowed mother of 13? Obtaining specialists was about as impossible as buying a ticket to the moon. However, there's a way about the Irish that no other nationality can match. With sheer determination, the 8 brothers raised the money for a trip to New York and the finest doctors in the world. The day for departure was in April, and the family knew they would need the extra time to reconcile him to leaving. Such an expensive trip, the sacrifice of his brothers, was an unimaginable ordeal for someone with as sensitive a nature as he possessed. His condition at the time was becoming increasingly worse, so that it became evident that something had to be done. The decision finally made, they left on a rainy day in the middle of April. It was a heartbreaking departure for all the raised miles. Arriving in New York, they immediately went to Bellevue. They were very fortunate in knowing they had surgeon, as he had whiled away at many happy hours on their own Beaver Brook as a summer fishing ground. The lonely months that followed were a continuous round of X-rays, examinations. They finally decided to operate, but left the decision up to him. They would either improve his condition by relieving the pressure on his spine, or he might be crippled for life. It was a tough choice for a boy of 18 with his whole life before him to make, but he finally took the advice of the doctors and submitted to the operation. The luck of the Irish was against him in the weeks and months that followed, for it became obvious the operation had been unsuccessful. Now, New York is a large city, and a far, far ride from the sleepy little town of Colebrook. It had been 7 months since he had seen anyone from home, and every minute of that time had been spent in the quite informal corridors of the building. How he longed to be back in the town, to smell the sweet hay, and gallop. I'm sad.
Yeah, it is sad.
Very sad.
And gallop through the fields on his horse. Letters from home were often and cheerful, but they only increased his nostalgia, and he even received a beautiful gold watch from his class at school, but even this was poor compensation. He remained at the hospital another 5 months and underwent 2 more operations. They were no more successful than the first, and it was apparent that nothing more could be done. His oldest brother came to him the first week in April. 1 year he had been gone, and all this time, first time he'd seen anyone from home. In those days, you could go.
No. Was there any contact by phone?
Well,
possible?
you didn't call. You didn't have to
No,
call.
I know. No.
George Cool was a doctor in town in New York. He died young, and he tended to him. Dr. Terrell and Archie LeMay used to go and see him, and Clayton Norris was in New York, and he used to go see him. The doctors asked his brothers in for consultation and described their attempts in detail, and then the blow came as they pronounced fatal words. No more than his depressed expression left as soon as they had sat at home. Arriving home, his frame of mind had so improved that everyone had high hopes that he eventually would recover the use of his legs. Being brought up by a strict father who believed wholeheartedly in the value of prayers, he turned to his God to ask for strength and keep his courage before the other.
Sad. It is. It's terrible.
It so absorbed his mind that everyone was really convinced that he was in a happy state of mind. In moments alone, his mind was filled with anguish and helplessness. When he had been home 2 months, he had spent all that time mostly his dad. The family found a wheelchair to see if this woman had been get around. The heartbreaking predictions of the doctors had been locked within the elder brother's heart, and now every plan for his future made with the family and his brother was an undescribable torture for him to bear. He was determined that no one else would unfurl this terrible knowledge. Perhaps in reading this, your heart has been filled with pity. This mind has been so many times when thinking about this boy.
That's quite a tribute, isn't it?
Who was so
Don't
filled with
rust.
enthusiasm for life. that even the greatest physicians in the world. This is the last thing in the world that he would want from you. Instead, give him your respect, as he is now a successful businessman and has earned for himself a place in the heart of all children. Testified of something by the gifts that he received each year. Surely he is a symbol of the courage we all should have to meet our afflictions in daily life. No complaint has ever passed his lips. Instead, there was always a continuous smile and encouragement of someone else.
Who wrote that?
I know, he's my uncle.
Oh, yeah. So that's the end.
Yeah. Oh,
That wasn't tape, was it?
Yes, it was.
Oh!
Do you rather it wouldn't be rusty? We can go back. We can
No,
take,
that's not right.
no, I think actually it's
who
yeah.
wrote that?
Audrey.
Oh, that's wonderful.
No, well, can't you see why he should have, why you thought it should be sent in?
Yeah.
But, see, Stuart was still living.
Yeah. How old
I was
he
in
went
high
away?
school when he
When
went.
he went away. Oh, you must have missed him. And
Oh, yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Could you write letters?
Yeah, oh, yes, and at
yeah.
Christmas time, the kids always had a Christmas tree up in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And see, Charlie and I were both in school. We just graduated. Instead of having the Christmas tree and the party, they took the money and bought him a watch.
And he said he was able. No, he was already out of. He was able to graduate, or
Well, he always graduated.
oh yeah.
This came on to him kind of gradually.
Yeah. Now he ended up living with you.
Yes, he it was no help for anybody in those days, and you were so proud that you probably wouldn't have taken it anyway. But Doris Swale, Doris was a school nurse, and she
That's sad.
Doris, and she got Mr. Black to come up here from Concord. And he thought, he had this good mind and so forth, and he ought to be learning something. So in the beginning, he painted signs. And we'd have to lift the signs around for him because he wouldn't get out of his wheelchair. He did it on the back porch of the town. And then from that, Mr. Black recommended him for a correspondence course in radio. And he took that, and then he took one in television. And he had a store on Main Street for 10 years, and earned a good living, kept a home for himself and my mother.
He had a store on Main Street. Where was that?
You weren't here then, were you?
At the very end.
It was right where
I'm trying to think. Let me see. Is that where
where
Cytex is now? Dick Cytex.
Right store was that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Stickies.
Yeah. On the Stickney's was there, and then
They were on the other half.
on the other half. They shared.
Yeah.
Oh.
There was a divide. You could walk right from one to the other.
Then after my mother died, he had schoolgirls work for him, and Charlie used to take him to work, and then he got so he couldn't work. When he came here, he was here for 5 or 6 years.
But he was very well liked.
Yes.
Oh, everybody loved Stuart, didn't they, Rusty? He was a wonderful man.
Now, when you graduated from high school, you decided.
We had the biggest class that had graduated up until that time. Susie was 32, and in that class were 3 doctors. We weren't very good at sports.
Well,
Dr. Parsons and Dr. Cross and Dr. Swale.
wow. Now you went to nurses?
I started training for nurse. I wasn't old enough to go, and I worked here. And I went to train for nurse at Master's General. And I was all ready to get my cat before I came home.
Now, how did that all happen? You graduated from high school, and did you decide right away that you wanted to
The
go?
other was 2 of us, 3 of us. Doris Ford and Elsa McGinley, myself, and we were going to go in training. And I was young and I couldn't go. I had to wait.
How old were you when you graduated?
16.
You were 16, and that was what, 1929?
29. That wasn't because I was smart. It was just because that you could start school back in the country schools those days, way back.
So the 3 of you were all going
We were
together.
going together, and Ilsa got accepted at one in Jamaica Plain, and Doris gave it up, and I was accepted. And I was terribly homesick. I'd never been away from home.
Oh yeah.
Never. And oh my God, I about died. And I kept thinking I was going to get over it, but I couldn't. I had a lump in my throat. And I laughed. I told Bruce Hall that once, and he said he had a lump in his throat all the time he was going to the service, and he made up his mind if he ever got back, he's never going to leave.
Was it frightening going to Boston? What was it like going to
Well,
Boston?
the rooms were, oh, they were terrible. The nurses had, you couldn't fix them up, you couldn't do anything. Terrible beds.
Did you have a roommate? Did you have a roommate?
Yes, and not my school roommate. She was rocked on. Her father was a dentist. I kept out my friendship with her for a long time. And I had to go and talk to the head nurse before I could leave. She didn't want me to leave. She said I had you picked out as a very sensible girl and you'd make a good nurse. Well, why didn't they say go home, stay a few days and come back?
Yeah, sure.
Did you see?
Yeah.
In those days, you didn't do things that way.
Yeah. Did the work interest you?
Yes, I really liked it. I came home and my mother didn't like it. She said, well, you had your chance now. Get a job and go to work. So I worked in a family of 7 for $4 a week.
Doing what?
Housework.
Just housework and cooking and the whole 9 yards?
Cleaning and everything.
Yeah.
So then I got a job in the restaurant. And then the next year I went to one of my liked it.
And then you got your teacher's training.
I was president of my class and I made the basketball team. They only went 2 years there.
So sounds like you were determined to have an education and have work other than housekeeping.
I get my trick of housekeeping. You went to a prep school, didn't you?
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think your mother was a very good psychologist to make you go to work for a little while, kid, and then the school doesn't look quite so bad being away, does it? No, that was good.
When you went to Boston, had you ever been to Boston before?
Well, I went down to see about getting in, but I'd never been away from home. See, kids didn't go to camp in those days.
Sure.
You didn't go. We didn't go and stay with other kids much either because we always had a lot of work to do at home. And then we had such a high family life, and all at once you're stuck in Boston with all these people you don't know. And one time I was doing stood up. We had to do them up every night. Yeah, Kathleen did him one night, and I did him one night. My brother from Boston was there watching me. He said, my goodness. He says, look at the way you did that. Wouldn't you have made a good nurse? I said, did I make a good school teacher?
So you were at Plymouth then? How long was teacher's training?
2 years. And I went to Salem Depot and did my practice teaching.
Did you stay with the family?
No. You had to apply for that, and you were chosen. 4 girls chosen during the year, and I applied and got it. And a girl from Milton and we were there the first 9 weeks, and we lived in a family with the girl that was what they call. She was the teacher that was over us at Rockville, and she had a room in the same house. We weren't allowed to go out nights or anything. We had to stay.
And then what happened after you finished that?
I got married and had children, and then I started teaching, and Betty was.
You returned to Colebrook?
Yes. And Betty was. I taught a little. I substituted the walk.
I was wondering, did you always have one, or?
Up at the farm we had one.
You did.
It was a party lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And when you didn't have anything to do, you listened in.
You did.
Yes.
I've heard that
Yeah,
people were careful about what they talked about because it was pretty much understood that everybody could listen, so there wasn't much soap opera stuff going on. Did everybody had their own ring?
Yes, ours was free.
Just three rings.
Just 3 rings.
Did they have longs and shorts and stuff like that?
Yes, but ours was 3 long.
Okay.
3 long, and some would have 2 long, 1 short, and 1 short and 2 long, or whatever.
Now, I've heard that the telephone back then was used really more just as a necessity. People didn't just call them yak and stuff. It was when information needed to be passed or somebody needed help or something like that. It wasn't.
I think probably it was.
Yeah, but you always had one. Okay, I was curious about that. Now you talked about
there wasn't a school phone in the schoolhouse.
No. So if anything,
Yeah, we want to just things didn't happen, I guess, too bad.
Yeah, yeah. You said you got married. How old were you, or what year did you get married?
1933.
Okay. And then Audrey's the older, and she was born
1933.
Oh, okay. And you didn't start teaching though until Betty was.
No, I started teaching when Betty started school. I finished up a grade for Bertha Orr. I think she went into the Navy, and I finished up with her the elementary school, and Mr. Knightley offered me this job at home school, where it was all 8th grades. Yeah, about 6 years.
Now your husband was Arnold. Arnold. Yeah. Okay. So you did some substituting, and then you took this job that you just mentioned. Where you had, and Betty was in that school.
No. Betty started in the elementary school, and Audrey was already in the 4th grade.
And where was the school?
The home school. You know where the church is, the Assembly of God Church, and down the river. Down the river. You know, the little church that's up here down the hill.
On Route 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So that house has been made into a house now. That was home school.
Oh.
And I've written the whole history of that for 6 years, and it's going to be in the history of California. So maybe I've got that all written out. So.
Okay. I'm just trying to jump in if you want, because I'm just gathering my thoughts.
Where did you live, Rusty? Did you live up here in Colebrook, or?
You know where I lived up in Mrs. Stickney's house, the old apartment up there when Audrey was baby.
Oh, right there on Pleasant Street, where Carrier's is, you mean?
Over on Parsons Street.
Parsons.
Mrs. Stickney's
Yes,
house.
Parsons Street. Yeah. Ellen Stickney's. Of course I know.
She had teachers. She took teachers, and they went to teachers' convention. When they came back, they brought Audrey a pair of white shoes. Mrs. Stickney used to make her white dresses. She loved her so. Then we moved over upstairs in Marguerite Wiswell's friend, which is, I can't think what's there now. It's
there on Monadnock Street?
No, right opposite. You know where Mim's building is, the old great big building, the yellow building?
Yeah.
Well, right, there's a driveway goes in there, and then there's a little apartment.
Yes.
We lived there.
Yeah.
There's a barber shop downstairs, and J. Gilkey and Schubert there. Yeah.
Kind of almost behind Hills.
Yes.
You know.
Well, we just go out in the back porch, and we'd come right out. Marjorie'd come out her back door, and we'd be right out.
Right. So it's right that little neighborhood you were.
Did you have a car when you started this
No,
job?
I didn't. I didn't have a car. I rode with somebody. I took that job for $900. It cost me $200 to get down there and back.
Now that was C-O-N-E, Cone School. Okay. And you had to write. Did you have your license then?
No, I never got one. I didn't have my license until I was 40 years old.
But you taught drivers then.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Everybody laughed when I was going to teach drivers in because I hadn't been driving that long myself.
But you hadn't had a chance to develop any bad habits.
Well, you know something? We had one car at the farm, and you don't think those boys were going to teach me how to drive? That would have been just one more to drive.
Yeah. So this Cone School, was that a one-room?
Yes, that was a room schoolhouse, and it had 8 grades. And do you think it's necessary for me to tell you all that? Because I can give you the notes on a letter or read the book.
Well, I guess if it's all written down.
I took a course from Mr. McDonald.
Yeah.
And I wrote that thing on homeschool while I was taking my course.
You have a copy of that. We
Yes.
could perhaps have copied.
Yeah.
That would.
I don't think it's in there. I think I've got it in another place, and I'll get it to you. Okay. I took it and turned it in to Dorothy Booth because I could share charge for schools.
It'd be nice if we could have it in your folder.
Yeah. Okay. So were you teaching when World War II started?
Now my whole story at home school is about World War II.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think there's any need of repeating. But, you know, it's what we did during how many were in the war that went to school then. And when the war ended, Mr. Dad came up and set up a radio so we could hear it when the prisoners got out down at down there, you know, I was there and I looked on school and somebody around, we got directed to go and really went into orbit.
Oh, jeez, really?
Those three men were wandering around, you know. But it's all written up in there, so why don't we?
Okay. Well, is there anything else that, especially right now, that you'd like to talk about? Because the next thing that I've kind of got in mind is kind of jumping ahead, but maybe would be the bicentennial.
Well, they asked me to coach basketball.
Oh, right.
And
no, I agree with.
I applied for a job teaching the 7th grade in Colebrook School. Just the way things work, and they didn't choose to hire me. They hired Isabel, Mary Bernard Shaw later, Isabel Cook, and they didn't choose to hire me. Parker Hicks was the reason I didn't get hired, and I didn't know that. But then they came on me to coach basketball. Well, I thought, well, gee, I'm good enough to coach basketball up there, but I'm not good enough to teach up there. So anyway, I coached basketball for 2 years, and at the end of the 2 years, she gave up the job, and so I applied again. And I just left my name right there. I said, I'm going to leave my name right there. So then I got the job in the old elementary school. I was there 12 years, and then I was over between the two front rows. So I had two for 13 years, and then the last year I had to go back up to.
Oh, be back to the elementary school.
Back up.
Right. That's right. Yeah, this was girls' high school basketball that you were coaching. How'd that go?
It was a lot of work. Well, we won our sharing games. We didn't have the championship team.
Yeah. Did Audrey play in it?
Yeah, she played on the team.
Yeah. So who were some of the other girls?
Faith Levitt and Brainerd girls and who else would be on it? The Lamourie girls. Clarice Bradley's sister played. Marilyn Eppolito played. They played. I said, yeah. There was a girl whose father was one of the bosses of the mill down on Stratford. She played at Carroll's. Her brother played on the boys' team. They were both nice players. And
so that was your coaching career?
Yeah.
Those 2 years?
Then later on, and when I was over to high school, Mr. Irwin asked Claire and I to have charge of the cheerleaders. So we had charge of that for a couple of years. We used to divide it up. We had to, one would go to practice one night, one the next. And then when the trips came up, one would take a long trip and we'd have a short one. And during some time, I said to Mr. Irwin, hey, Mr. Irwin, why don't you make one of the high school teachers coach cheerleading? High school or junior high teachers. I said, gosh, you bring them in every year and put them right beside of us and pay them more money we get, and we get the job of having the cheerleaders. But he says, you know, Mrs. Wiswell, those teachers couldn't handle those kids on that school bus. Did you cheerlead up like that?
No, I didn't. No. Kind of jumping back when you were a child or growing up, did your family go to town meeting, or did your father go, or both your parents? Would families go? Did they close school back then?
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They just went, I guess, probably I can't remember. I can remember when I first began to go, and there was a lady that got up and spoke. Her name was Mrs. Corbett, and I was dumbfounded that this woman got up and spoke at school meeting, and she was she would be related to Aldana Lyons and Bruce Group. She'd be a grandmother to them.
Is that Mildred?
No, it was Alice.
Oh.
Alice Corbett. Mildred was in. Okay. And my goodness, she'd get up, she would speak, and she was a good speaker, and I used to sit and look at her and wonder how she dared get up and speak with all those men.
She was opinionated, and
yeah, she was.
Yeah.
She was a Republican, and her husband was a Democrat. She used to say they didn't sleep together during the time of the primaries of the campaigns.
So you didn't go as a child?
Well, no, I did go as a child, but I started going fairly young. I think that year that I stayed out of school, and after I graduated, I went that year. And
was your father active in town?
Not especially.
No, well, I'm sure his work at the farms had been pretty busy. Well, now jumping right up just because I'm curious, and you don't have to tell me this, but I'm just with all these candidates that we have running this year. I'm curious as to what you think about the primary this year in New Hampshire.
I think he called me and asked me. I'm not sure. I think a lot of them think Bill's going to win, but I don't think he is. Do you?
I don't know. It sounds like this Steve Forbes is making headway with all this. I don't know.
I met the goal out the Balsams or something like that. And I met Bill Graham down at that man down in the East Road at the Shrine. And I met Buchanan. I've never happened to meet Forbes, but I've met.
I don't think Forbes has come up. It is kind of different this year that they're talking about that.
Because he and Bill Graham probably have got the most experience in conducting business in Washington. You know, they've been there a long time, and you can't. It's just like being a freshman in high school. You can go and you don't know anything for a while.
Yeah.
So same way in politics. The first year you're there, you got to find out who you got to get things done. Blah blah. They're pretty well informed.
Yeah.
I heard on the television that Bill Graham's going to give up if he doesn't.
Yeah, I heard that too. Well, I was just kind of curious about that.
I'm afraid that Clinton's going to get back in.
Well, I've been hearing that he may have a chance because of
we've got a good chance to get him in. Democrats should be strong and not that.
Yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to see what happens. You were friendly with Dr. Parsons over the years and bringing up your kids, and were her kids? Her kids were younger than your kids, weren't they?
Yeah. Now I've got all about her speak. What I spoke about
at the Balsams.
Yes, and I'll leave to that.
Yeah, I remember that. That was such a nice.
Because it tells about them.
Yeah.
She's a godmother to some of my children. I was a godmother to some of hers, and her mother was a godmother to Audrey and Betty, and Peggy all worked for them. And we were friends, but we never were. She lived over there, and I lived here. We might not see each other for a couple of weeks or so. Mm-hmm. When we met, we could pick up where we left off. Mm-hmm. She was always there for me, and I was there for her.
I remember you told the story about one of her kids was sick and she didn't know what to do.
She asked me what to do. Yeah. She did it, and it worked.
Well, maybe we could start talking about the bicentennial and how all that came about. That was just before I moved to Colebrook, and I missed the whole thing.
Well, you got the picture, haven't you?
Well, I've looked in Dr. Gifford's book.
Yeah.
And I've looked
at the picture in the second one of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what he wrote about it there.
Was there a lot of planning? I mean, did you plan?
Yes, there was. I was dumbfounded when I heard we have a town meeting, and they had this was coming up, and some of the town fathers. And I never did find out who got up and nominated us.
You know what year was the bicentennial?
1970. And I never found out who nominated us, but somebody did, and I was notified, and we worked for a whole year on that.
You and Ellsworth.
Oh, all of us, the committee.
Yeah. Who else was on the committee?
There's a picture of them. Mm-hmm. Donald Dixon was on, and
yeah,
it just amazes you because a lot of them were never brought up over. Don Dyer was on, Russ Ingram, Harry Olmsted, Ursula George, Fred Harrigan.
You and Ellsworth were the chairman.
Yeah. Dr. Gifford. And Marjorie wanted to be on that. She wasn't. They put Dr. Gifford on. It was, her folks were early settlers here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never knew that for a long time afterwards. Yeah. That's too bad.
Did you come up with all? I know there were a lot of different things that went on, and did you all come up with those ideas just yourselves?
We met every 2 weeks, I think, for a whole year, and we really worked on that. Yeah. And plus the people put out 3 books, the cookbook, and Colebrook School Days. And by the way, we're trying to get the money to bring Colebrook School Days up to date. We went in front of the school committee, Richard Levitt and I, and Herbert Davis. You see, it's 25 years since it's been brought up to date. Mm-hmm. And so they don't have their pictures taken anymore. Did you know that? It's all group. The graduate classes.
Oh, they don't?
They have individual ones, so they might have one for the couple, but you know, they always used to have a picture.
Yeah.
But he thinks he can get them through Sentinel or through some group.
Yeah.
Don't you think, Rusty, Colebrook will always be in Dick Levitt's? You know, he was the one that got those books going. You know, Colebrook owes him so much because it has just, we just refer to it constantly. Anything comes up and we're going through. No, he did a wonderful job for town.
And the funny part of it was, you know, he was, I hope he worked so hard, and he just enjoyed every minute of it.
It was wonderful.
My brother had two of those. My older brother, Arthur, lived with me for one when he went to the rest home. And he had a copy of Colebrook School Days and Colebrook Yesterday, and he completely wore those books out. I'd take one up, you know, they didn't have space to keep too much stuff. I'd take one up, keep it one, bring it home, take the other one up, and they were completely worn out.
Well, they're wonderful books.
Yes. In the cookbook, you hear more people. It's a funny thing that night at the school board meeting. They said, how many years has it been since the book came out? Well, the book has all the graduates up to 1970, and that's 25 years, you see. We're 26 now. It will be in June. And they said, well, are there any of those books available? And the chairman of the school board said, look, he says, the funniest thing happened. He said, today in the mail, I got a copy, or yesterday, of Colebrook School Days. And he said, a friend of mine down in Stratham, New Hampshire, saw it in the yard sale, only bought it and sent it to me. And he said, and you come in here tonight and talked about it.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful, wonderful time. It was just amazing. So many people came back, and you know, they started the parade way up this way. It was they were clear up beyond the IGA stores now. They left the last folks. They just squared off the highway, and they had 5 vans, and we had to make arrangements to get them, and then we got the money minted, and we had to get the band and get the tent and everything. It was really just a marvelous time. And the ball was so lovely.
Where was the ball?
The ball was held in the gym.
Oh.
The fashion show was held at the town hall. It wasn't converted yet into the offices, but it wasn't. It was broken up enough so we couldn't have the dance, and the dance was held up at the gym. And we had the, had the costume ball, and we had a dance for the kids.
Where did the money come from for all that? Had the town appropriated?
The town of Colebrook appropriated $2,000, and then we sold the little things, little name tags, and made money on a lot of things. I think when we ended up, I don't know whether we paid any of the money back or not, but anyway, the $2,000 was.
Did that draw a lot of people? Did a lot of people come back to enjoy that?
Yes, and some people predicted how many people were on the street that day. You see, we were in the parade, so we couldn't judge, but it seemed to me as if when we hit the top of the roof, all sat it down. It was just a sea of people, just a sea of faces. But do you remember how many they predicted?
No, I don't, but I think we can perhaps find the write-up in the Sentinel on that.
How many there were?
How many there were there, because it was pretty good coverage there on the Sentinel.
Huge.
But it was just packed. I mean, shoulder to shoulder.
Now, did it take? I wasn't here, and how long a time was it? Like a whole summer type of?
No, it was the month of August was designated as the bicentennial month, but I think it was the first and second week that we. It was the second week that we did all. We had to get in between the beginning of school and to pay us.
Oh. Well, I'm thinking about the men growing the beards.
Yes.
And how long that took them.
Well, that was going on all year, and they,
when they first, the beginning of the
different
year, they
events
started that.
Yes. Beautiful parade.
Is there any film of that?
Yes. There's a film we've been in. I think we have it now, the Historical Society, but for a while we just didn't know what it was. It belonged to the Colebrook cable people. It sort of got lost or was taken properly care of. You've got it now.
I think we have it. There's so much talk about it. I can't, because it was missing for a while. I think we have it.
We had it one night at the Historical Society, and Bob Moore and Joan Cowan did the commentating. It's not color, is it?
No.
Which is not too bad.
How did Joan Cowan happen?
Well, she just was good at it.
Oh.
And they most of the people win everything.
Right. I think I've seen that years ago.
I bet you have.
On the Colebrook
Cable TV, we had it.
Yeah.
Remember?
There was a pageant.
Yes, it was the Ellsworth's pageant.
I think that's what I saw. Would Bob Moore have been?
Yes, we've got the book. And plus, you've got the. Have you ever seen the book?
No, I don't think I have. I mean, I've just looked in Dr. Gifford's book.
That running up there, just shut it off for a minute and we'll get my book and she can take it.
It's Friday, May 24th, 1996. We're at Mrs. Wiswell's house. Ellie Gooch is here. I'm Susan Sambito, and we're going to talk some more. Okay. Do you need me to say the date and year again?
No.
Okay. And we're going to talk, you retired from teaching?
I retired in 1974, and someone suggested to me that I run for the legislature. So I ran that fall, and I made it, and I got the most votes of anybody.
Had you ever thought about it before?
Well, not too much. No, not too much. And I ran that year, and I was there for. At that time, the legislature only met every other year, so I ran 4 times and was there 8 years. Sometimes we'd have to go down on the off year, but the House might be the session or it might not. Now, of course, it's every year.
Now, did they take summers off, or how did it go?
They usually finish up the budget, and that's the last big time that you have.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crunch in June, and they're finishing it now. It's in the paper.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have to have a budget for a certain date. They set the date, and then they've got to have it for that time. And one time we went there, and the Senate wouldn't cooperate, and we went at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, and we were still there Friday morning at 7:30 or 8.
Right straight through? You've been there?
Some of them laid right on the floor.
No kidding.
And they sent out and got us some hamburgers.
So, did it take any convincing to get you to run, or you were pretty open to the idea?
I retired. I probably should have continued teaching school, but I had taught 32 years, and I didn't like the situation I was under at that time, so I taught under Mr. Women. And so I decided I'd do something else, and when you can put down a preference of what committee you want to be on, because there's over 400 legislators and there's all these committees, and the governor and his group have to decide what committee you want to be on. And of course, the committee is the Appropriations Committee. And we've been fortunate up here because we've had somebody on for a long time. Right now, Mr. Merrill's on from Pittsburgh. Your area needs to have somebody on that committee because that's where the money comes from. And they wanted, of course, me right off to go on the Education Committee. And I said, no. I said, I'd rather not. Because when I put there, I have to serve there. I said, I taught school 32 years and I'd like to do something different. So they put me on the fishing game. There's a picture back many years. Some of them have been on the books.
Can you tell me about your very first day and what it was like going into that hall?
Well, you see, the House convenes usually at 10 o'clock in the morning. I've got to leave you people.
Okay.
He's to come here. He's going to give me a.
Okay. Well, I had asked you before about your first day, and it was. I guess I'm just curious about what it was like, starting something new.
Well,
like you said before, it was like being a freshman in high school.
Well, we met in the House of Representatives, which is that place there, and we met there, and the governor was there to greet us. And of course, when he comes in, everybody stands, and Speaker of the House.
This was Governor
Governor Thompson, and the Speaker of the House, of course, you stand when he first comes in, and of course they sit down front there. And if you speak, you have to go down front and stand with the speakers. And I don't think we were assigned our seats that day. I think we were just spoken to as an assembly, as I remember it. And he said that they passed out a lot of information, and we had to sign up for what committees we'd like to serve on. And they kind of thought I'd like to serve on the education committee because I had a lot of experience, but I wanted to do something different, so I got put on the fish and game committee, and of course that had a lot to do with it, so I enjoyed it. And I later worked up on that committee and was clerk of the committee, I think, for the last 2 years I was there, and you have to take down all the notes and you have a sheet with all the people's names on. You have to check them off if they're present because they don't get paid if they're not present because they're supposed to be there. The only reason you're not supposed to be there, when they take attendance, you press the button. The only reason that you have for not being there is sickness. You take that job, it's yours, and it's your responsibility, and you're supposed to tend to it. Now, some of them not there, and there was one person, particular from Berlin, I think he just came down. They'd have a good time. He was never there. And if they have a call of the house, I don't know if you know what that means, but the woman that beside her told me she'd been there ever so long, and she said she'd only seen 2 in a lifetime, and I saw one. And what the call of the house means that you sat there until every member was in their seats. Now, it doesn't matter where they are. I suppose they're dead, they could be there, but otherwise, we sat there one day and waited, and some didn't show up, and he knew the bar room where a lot of them hung out, and he sent his adjutant down and came dragging in. They looked pretty pretty embarrassed. And it really is, it's an education just to see how it's run. And, you're always polite, and you can't just speak until you're recognized. And when the different bills come up, of course, you have to work up your whatever you want to say. And the first one I spoke on was a health and welfare bill for Marjorie and Herbert, and all of that. Governor Thompson was against it, and we didn't go through it. And I remember I worked pretty hard on that, got a lot of research, and the man that sits beside me was a Finnish man that lived outside of Lisbon. He worked for years for the National Paper Company. He was an auditor, and he retired and had a farm there in Lisbon. And he said to me, "You feel awful bad, don't you, today?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "Well, don't feel bad, because in this game you lose some, you win some." And he says, "I'll take you out to dinner tonight." So he did. He used to take us out quite often, just because he was there and we were there. And it's surprising how many of the bills were settled down at the old New Hampshire Highway Motel, because when you came over, you always went to the bar or for a drink, or they'd gather in somebody's room, or there'd be parties. And there's a lot of talking, a lot of persuading, a lot of legislation goes on. And the man that's the Speaker of the House has to be a pretty strong person. He's got to rule that whole house and keep it in order. And most everybody is very polite. Once or twice I saw people get mad at things that I'm sure they regretted afterwards.
Arguments on the floor?
Well, you see, you can't argue back and forth. You go down and say what you want to say. There's all the pros of the bill, and there's all the cons. And you say what you want to say, and when you get through speaking, if you can say no questions. I spoke on a bill about the moose, and we let Harry Huggins. He'd been there for years on it. I didn't want the moose killed, and that was before they were so plentiful. And I got some information. And at that time when I spoke, I said I didn't want any questions. And they don't question any questions. If you say you'll take, of course, a lot of them get the floor and they just want to get up there and expound. On and on. There's a lot of lawyers in the house, and some of them aren't very nice characters. they get up there and, you almost want to boo them. You never clap. Well, you might clap for if they gave George Roberts a Forsage or something. You could clap, but you don't clap when the people testify. That's normal. And there's a lot of things that come up that would surprise you. It's run so nicely, and it's run according to Hoyle. He runs that house. And of course, later on, it was John Tucker, and John Tucker was the executive secretary of the State Teachers Association for years, so I knew him. And pretty responsible job.
How many terms did you say you served?
I ran 4 times, but that's 8 years. So I was
25
to 1983.
And you were a Republican?
Yes. I got on both the Republican Democrat ticket. That's why I got some on committee votes. There was nobody running against me on the Democratic side. Somebody said they was going to, they said they didn't think they'd get any votes, so they guessed they wouldn't run. They'd wait till I got votes. Wow. So I made it on both Republican Democratic ticket. And of course, this is a highly, highly Republican area. And if there's a partisan vote, you know what a partisan vote is? If there's a partisan vote, you have to vote for your party belong to.
You do.
Yes, you can't renege.
There are rules about that?
Oh, yes. If it's a partisan vote, you vote. You don't leave your party. Well, I suppose, I don't know if anybody ever did, but if they did, I don't know, I guess they would be excommunicated or something.
Gosh. Were people friendly? All the new people to meet?
Awful friendly. It's one of the greatest experiences that anybody could ever have. I never pick up the paper, but I read about people that I know in the legislature. Or some of them you don't know, but you've been there with them day after day after day. You are very intimate with the ones in your committee. And I laugh because I wore slacks quite a lot because I left them up here, and my committee, like me, they, used to kid me a lot. I went in one day and had on dress, and they said, "Oh my God, we didn't know you had legs, Maggie." And then one day I was home one weekend, and I made raisin filled cookies, and I put so that it would break this coffee all the time in your committee room, and I passed them around, and oh my God, we didn't know you could cook. We didn't know you could cook. Now, how did you ever know how to make these? These are the kind my mother used to make, and they were always very, very nice to me.
Now, there were other women. I mean, quite a few other women, not on your committee, but I mean in the legislature as a whole.
A lot of women in the legislature now. I was the first woman legislator from here. The other night I thought about it, Ellie. Celia Hullivan ran, but she didn't run from here. She ran from Arrow. Yeah.
But that was never, you were treated nicely by everybody.
Plus the Senate is an entirely different body, and we're very fortunate that Fred came there. Believe me. And the representatives and the senators sometimes haggle over bills, and they have to be passed back and forth. I think any bill, I believe this is right, any bill that has to do with money has to be in the House. I think it has to originate then it goes to the Senate, and then it has to come back
for another vote, for another House vote. Yeah.
Not a lot of rules and regulations, and the man that is the hot Speaker of the House is like in our country. They're very, very influential person, and I don't think George Roberts and Governor Thompson got along too well, and so it made it kind of hard. And then, of course, I happen to like Governor Gallen better than Governor Thompson, for the simple reason that I met him in the corridor one day, and he stopped and
this is Governor Gallen that said this to you.
And he said, "Well, I'm from up in your country too, and if you ever want to get any bills through on anything in particular, you come to my office and I'll help you all I can," because he said, "I think we people in our country ought to stick together." And he had his business administrator was a little boy named Michael Canadius, and
I've met him.
He sat beside me in the house. And his father was one of the big officers in the Indian Affairs in Washington, D.C., and he was at Dartmouth College when he ran. And he came in here. Oh, he looks like an Indian, doesn't he?
Yes.
And he had one Pierre Cardin suits.
Yeah.
The first when he sat there and looked at me, he was to say, you know, you old bro, what are you still hanging around for? And I just, you know, kid with him or fool with him. And finally he got so he liked me. We liked each other very much. I thought he was a right man. And then he was appointed. His wife was a
Patty
lawyer.
Blanchett.
Yes, I know her. She's from Newmarket. And he got into some trouble, you know.
Yes, he did.
That was sad. I wrote him a letter, and he wrote back and told me how pleased he was to hear from me. And then he and Patty, I think he and Patty were married at the time, and I think he did didn't he do nighttime jail?
I don't know. I just remember reading about
Because
it.
what he did, I've forgotten what it was he did. I can't think now, but some typical criminal.
Patty ended up president of the state bar association.
Yes, she was. I think John spoke about her. He went and spoke to her once.
Yeah.
Told him I was his grandmother. Michael was a Dartmouth student. He ran from the town of Durham.
Was he able to go to Dartmouth?
I would imagine so, but I don't think he came from downtrodden Indian tribe. He had the most gorgeous clothes, and he was very quiet but very bright. The first day he got up and spoke in the floor of the house, I was just amazed. And it's quite surprising. It was a man named Bradley from Lincoln, and he used to get gaunt and gore. He'd get up, and when he got up, people would clap. Not after he spoke, but when he got up, because he'd get up and he had this twang, and he would go on about up and gaunt and gore. And the Fish and Game Department got a bear that was causing trouble, and they complained about it. And so the Fish and Game Company trapped the bear and put it in a truck and brought it way up to Pittsburgh, let it go in about 4 days. It was back in Thornton Gore. This lady just died. She was 98 years old.
Mabel Richardson?
And that we are at a deer hearing. I worked on a bill for the change the deer season.
To make it longer or shorter?
Well, I can't remember just now what it was. I looked at saw it when I went through and stuff there.
That must have been very interesting working on Fish and Game. I bet. Yeah.
That's did you ever know Mr. Now at high school here? Phil Now, that's his brother. He was see when we meet in the morning, the chairman of your committee calls the committee to order, and they come over from the Fish and Game. Whoever's Fish and Game Department, because that building burned, they had their own now one place. And every morning there's 3 or 4 of them, or whatever committee they come over. So to be there, they couldn't say anything. You see, you can't speak unless you can't speak. You can come and testify, but when they've got to be signed up. They can't just come into the committee and speak.
So you'd have people testify at your committee meetings, and then
he'd say, we'll now take up, say, the one big bill I worked on was Bill 112, and he said, we will now discuss, we'll hear the people speak on Bill 112, and so and so and so. Then they list it, see, now he'd take what they said down, whether they were pro or what, and take it down. And if I didn't have to take it all down, but you have to take down the highlights of it, see. And the people from the Fish and Game Department came over. We usually heard them first because they all had to travel to work, you see. So then anybody else who wanted to come in speak on the bill. The hearings, those are called hearings. The hearings are in the morning at 10 o'clock, and the House usually convenes at 1 o'clock, I think. That gives you a chance, you see, to have from 10 to 12 usually for your committee meetings or whatever, and then 12 to 1 you have lunch as a cafeteria downstairs, and you can go up to eat, and then the House convenes at 1.
Did you have much access to? You said Governor Gallen told you to stop by his office. Did you ever do that? Did you ever stop by his office and talk with him about?
When they are very receptive to the representatives. I went and knocked the door and asked to see them. You see them.
Really?
Yes, you would. Oh, yes.
Yeah. And Governor.
I don't know if you'll see him, but you'll get in the office and get what you probably would see him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a lot of work. I always saw Michael because Michael was his business administrator. Mm-hmm. He's buried in Littleton, coming down.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is that where he's from?
That's where he was when he was made. I thought he was a handsome man.
Oh, very good. Yeah, it was quite unexpected.
I look back now, I wonder if he had AIDS. Oh, she did.
Governor Gallen?
He died suddenly.
It was very sudden.
Did he die in office?
Yes.
He did.
Yes, he did. Yeah. He went on. He wasn't feeling good, and he went on a trip to one of the islands, I think, for a little retreat. It was a year that the house didn't convene because he had to work every day. And I think that he just got back home. I have heard that he and his wife were having problems before he ran. He was going to run for governor, and they persuaded her to stick with him and because he wouldn't get it.
Sure.
He was divorced. And if he ever went out with anybody, I never saw her and I never heard about it. So if he did, he was very discreet. Yeah. And she was there once in a while, but not very often. The minute that I got there in the morning, when I was made clerk of the committee, you made that by vote. You have a special place to park, and that was downstairs. While I was there, they bought the old post office for $1 from the United States government. And we didn't have parking in that committee room. There were renting homes downtown all over everywhere. So they bought that building for $1, and George Roberts was the instigator to get that reconstructed, made into that's 3 floors, and we had beautiful committee rooms. And I had an office of my own, and had a telephone with a Watts line, yes.
Wow.
And we were the first ones to occupy it. It was on the 3rd floor, and it was downstairs as a reception and everything, and committee rooms everywhere, so that there were some, of course, back in the Capitol building, but before that, you said they were sprung all over town. There's a lot more committees than used to be years ago, because there's some that you wanted to be necessary.
Is that what they call the Steakhouse Annex? What you're talking about?
And there's a tunnel you can go from the street house down through. And of course, first thing I did in the morning when I got there was go to see Suzanne, because she's been executive. She's been the secretary for the government, the executive council. She's been under, must be 7 or 8 governors now. She told me Governor Peterson was absolutely the nicest man that could ever have anything to do with.
You knew him.
Yes. Yes. Well, how's he related to you?
Well, he came from Peterborough.
Oh.
And so on.
Yes.
He's wonderful.
And
his wife Dottie.
she said that at that time she said Governor King was the smartest one. So he was a Democrat from Manchester, but I suppose now it must be some. They say he has one of the highest IQs. So. But she always told me, she said Governor Peterson was absolutely. I have a book he gave me once. She said you couldn't have a nicer gentleman.
He was a gentleman.
Yeah. And so I go there. The first thing I do is run up to see her, because she'd have all the scuttlebutt and tell me, what was going on, what had happened. Because you go Tuesday and you come home Thursday, because they're there. Around the clock, I guess. It's quite a thing. One time I went to Jonathan's class, and they wanted me to tell the kids how a bill was passed. And they were pretty young. It was kind of hard, but I can remember I took some paper and made out all these little things. You see, somebody's got to sponsor the bill first, and people get bill happy. We'll read in the paper about all these bills. Half those bills aren't necessary. And they'll, as they say, there's too many laws now. Why don't they observe the ones that we have? And we have to have some new laws for this generation that, it's gone so far ahead, but you sponsor a bill, and if the Fish and Game wanted a bill over the department, if they want something, wanted to do something new, they would come into the committee and ask somebody to sponsor the bill. And John Stimmel was the chairman of our committee, and he'd been chairman 17 years. He was a friend of Fred Harris. And he, like me, of course, because I came from the North Country. He came from down around Durham, but he knew Fred. And so he would say, well, get Maggie to sponsor that one. Get this one to do it. And he's an awful nice man. I went to call on him. He died of a malignancy. He was in the office, and I was in Durham visiting my roommate, and I stopped, and he was at the stage where he was sitting in a chair just laying on the table. Nice man.
Why did you cease running?
I had to that arthritis came on me. Came on me just like that, yes.
That was the beginning of that time.
I was so sorry that I didn't get some help and continue, because I would have been chairman of that committee, and I would have been the first woman chairman of the, I would stand a pretty good chance.
Sure.
And because that was when they were pushing women, and John had been chairman for years, and nobody would ever think of bucking him.
You just felt you couldn't
Well,
do the
it's
job.
one thing for a man to get up and drive from here to Concord Tuesday morning, no matter what the weather is, but it's not the thing for a woman. And then I picked up Andy, the young guy that was our trip that we went on. Every year at the end of your session, you have a committee trip. And we went down the Isles of Shoals, went fishing.
Oh.
Brett and Julie was freezing cold.
It looks cold. There's a picture of everybody on a boat, and you look cold.
Yeah.
Oh, cold.
But what a good trip.
Oh, not good.
So you really get friendly with your committee, and
oh yes. Now you see, of course, the people from the North Country stay down, and the other people don't. So we all had rooms at the Highway Motel, and they just went around like that. The legislators rooms all in here. They gave us a special price. Well, then they built they called it the Radisson at that time, where we stayed there last weekend. Holiday Inn is, and they wanted our business, but they couldn't give us any more price. It got pretty bad in the end. They put the money back. He was quite a character, Gene Daniels. He was from. He'd get up and get the ball. He was a Democrat in all four. He was a fiery, feisty man.
he was.
He was a lawyer in Franklin. Nice man. Very smart. He didn't like Governor Thompson. Those are the things that come out. That's on a computer thing. And last of it, our votes often come on the computer.
Oh.
Yes, voting action. Marguerite Wiswell, committee, fish and game. The subject was a health and welfare. Committee amendments, how you voted. This was 1981.
Did you ever get flack from anybody here at home about how you voted or didn't?
But the thing that bothered me quite a little bit about, yes, I'll tell you about that. The thing that bothered me quite a bit was that so little interest. You go down there and work your butt off, and some people care. Either that or else they put their complete faith in you. Most everybody knew I was going to vote the way the North Country felt, no matter how I felt. And of course, if you represent the Republican Party, that's your duty to vote that way, no matter. But once in a while, you might diverge. You might. And I came home one time, and there had been this is going to be public, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Just shut it off.
We'll just shut this off for now. Yep.
Did the legislature ever have guest speakers? The main assembly with dignitaries come?
Yes.
People running for president or something like that.
Reagan was there, and Ford was there, and all the ones that were running for the United States Senate were there. They have to set up a special day for them. You see, you can't come in and just speak to that house. It's a house, and it's run by the Speaker of the House, and they have the doors guarded, and you can't get in there unless you're supposed to be in there, because you could punch the buttons, you see.
Yeah, oh, right. Did any of those people particularly impress you that you saw speak? People we would, whose names we've known?
Well, at the time, I think I was duly impressed with all of the presidential candidates. George Bush was there. Who came, and they had such tight security, we had to move on cars all out of the Highway Motel. I can't think right now which president that was. He was the president then, he wasn't running for president.
Ford?
Ford ran in 76 as an incumbent.
Is that, I don't know the date.
Who was there after Ford?
Carter. So he would have run again. He ran again in 80. And put Reagan again.
They had our seats. Who had us? What was going on there? What was that? We packed way up in the armory. He was president. Maybe just.
Oh, I'm sure that's a big thing. Security. Should I grab another book and just kind of look through and see if. Is there another one after this? Are they in any particular order, or should we just
it's chaos?
Grab? Okay, that's all right. That's right. Keeping with
another book?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, maybe you people will encourage me to get at those and do them now.
Well, Just looking at pictures might make me
I usually have that for winter project.
think of interesting questions to ask. Want me to hit stop?
Yeah,
Ellie?
push stop.
Automatically a member of the Coast County delegation. And you have to be on one of the committees up there. So guess what committee they put me on? The farm committee.
Oh.
Farm wasn't doing very well. So I took myself out to Bob and Bill Keeses, and I thought, I'll find out. I know it's different running an institution than running an individual thing, but the Keeses made money all the years of their life on a farm out there, so it must be possible. And I listed down all the things. So we're going to have a county commission meeting with the county commissioners, and he sat right down and was very honest. And I know they wanted a new pickup truck, and I said, now why do they need a pickup truck and a ton truck and all this stuff? Why does the county have to pay for those? And Bill Keeses brought that up, and I think he's a good thinking man. He says, well, he says, Maggie, he says, if they had to come to Colebrook for something, it'd be kind of crazy to ride a 2-ton truck down or 2-ton or whatever they are.
Yeah,
They
but of
could use
course
a
that's
pickup.
right.
And of
Yeah.
course he was right. Then when it came, the manure spreader had gone, and I've forgotten how much manure the thing takes it out, and cable. And of course, if theirs broke down out there, they always have the saying, if you give keys or a piece of haywire, they can fix anything they can. They'd fix theirs. Well, up here, who cares? Who cares? And they had a bad time with farm managers while I was there. And then there's all these different committees, but you have to be on for your sheriffs. Why do you need a sheriff's department? You don't need a sheriff's department. You've got the state troopers. See, there's a repetition in our state of law and government. I think there's not a lot of people feel that same way.
I
They don't
think
do anything
you're right.
about it. They don't do a thing about it.
What I heard recently, and I'd never thought about it before, that what the Governor's Council in New Hampshire does is it has to do with, the live free or die, granite state kind of thinking. It keeps the governor from having too much power.
It does. It does, but in Vermont they have an attorney general.
Mm-hmm.
And we could have one. Of course, in a way, it may be a good thing because an attorney general gets too powerful. And maybe the executive council, I didn't know where the money came from for the executive council.
Mm-hmm. To pay them, you mean?
Well, I mean, where do they get the money? They're always raising something or voting somebody in.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of stuff in the paper. You see long lists of
Things that they do.
appointments and things. Yeah. We're going to have a new courthouse in Lancaster, I saw.
We fought that for years and years and years. Thought that one there was good enough, but I guess it isn't anymore. They asked to have it be a kind of building, historical building, right? Is it going to be?
I don't know. I hope so. I hope it will be. It's pretty preserved.
My gosh, we've been there meetings 2 or 3 times, and it's old and it's kind of old-fashioned, but it's pretty clean and neat.
It's a real pretty courtroom.
Yes, I thought it was.
I think now they have a lot of security concerns, whether that's founded or not.
I was there when they built the new jail up here too. I was on committee. That was an awful expensive thing, And one day we went to a meeting of the Coast County delegation, and they said they had to put in a telephone booth for prisoners. Gosh, I couldn't believe it. I protested it. I said, telephone booth for the prisoners? Where would they get money to use it? Well, they said they call collect. I said that would be the day one of mine would call me collect from prison. And that would see if you accept, they accept a terrific amount of federal funds to put in that jail up there. When you accept those funds, and you've got to go by their rules, and that was one of the rules.
Yeah.
That's
So
true.
they have a telephone booth for these guys. And you have to call them.
Now, was the jail there before?
Yes, the
and
jail
they just
was there, but they had
made it.
I think they needed a new jail, perhaps. That one was pretty bad, but they're not up there to be at a country club. They're up there to be punished.
Yeah. No, just if you have anything.
Now this woman here was a she was a senator. Oh, she was so nice. She was such a nice lady. They had a rose for her.
Mary Louise Hancock. I saw the invitation in the other book.
Mary
Yeah.
Louise Hancock. She's a nice person. Well, I love legislators and heroes.
That's an old picture. Oh, that's 1877 legislature. I don't see any women in that picture.
They have a no, they weren't. They have a guide to take people around, And of course, they would send it from here was a guy for a long time, and he took people around, took them all over a Hall of Flags you step into there. And it's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
They weren't preserved while I was there. They tried to figure out some way to preserve them. This is what we use in our committee. That's what I had to fill out first thing every day. So here's the name. She said.
Colin Chample was on your
Yes.
Oh. Now, did you? So you served with him? Had he already been there when you got there?
No,
he came after you. Did he stay after you left?
Yes, he did. He was.
So would you advise anyone to?
Oh yes, I'd advise anyone that's interested. You don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or a teacher to be a good legislator. All you've got to do is go down there and use some common sense. Listen to both sides of the argument, and some days you get swayed one day and one another. But you have to learn to judge what's right and what's wrong, and if the bill should pass or not. It's going to help our town, and you will. It is. You don't go into it for the money. It's one of the greatest experiences a person could ever have.
Can I just ask one last question about this? Was there ever a vote that you really had a hard time deciding?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Yes. You sometimes you know 2-3 days from the hearings. See, the hearings are held first, and then you're notified when it's coming on the floor of the House to be voted on. So it isn't voted on. It's voted on in the committee, but it isn't a law. And I was there 8 years, and they talk about the governor vetoing the 2000 thing. And I was there 8 years, and I saw quite a few vetoes, and I never saw one that you could override the governor's veto. I think it's 2/3 vote. Quite a lot of 2/3.
That's high, 2/3.
Yeah. The common sense thing.
A lot of nice people there, and they come from all over your state. And you just become so proud to think that you live in a state where there's so many people willing to put in that time. You put it in because you don't get much money.
Well, I think we also want to hit sports, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, to talk to Maggie, Rusty Marguerite, you can't talk to her and not talk about sports. That's for sure. You've always just loved sports. Basketball most.
Well, I like them all. You see, I was brought up on a farm with 9 brothers, and we had a place in the barn to play basketball. And then at night, we played baseball. We only had one old block, and we played, at night and after we got to lumber. And the kids from town always liked to come up because you couldn't go into the gym or the town hall to play. They wouldn't allow you to. So they'd come up to our house and we'd play and fight a little, and we'd play a little more and fight some. You get the nag. You challenge the referee. And my mother, of course, I didn't have any girls anywhere near me in the family, no neighbors, and so I played with the boys, and they drive a ball at me unmercifully in baseball or something, And I'd cry and I'd tell my mother, and she'd say, just don't fight with them. Don't come trying to me. Go down back to the barn and cry, and I'd go down and cry while in the back and play some more.
Did you follow professional sports back then when you were a kid?
No professional sports back then. My brother in 1921, 22, and he played on a championship basketball team in the local academy. And I didn't go to any of the games. I wasn't quite old enough to see. We had some boxing gloves given to us, and so I bought them for Harry. He brought them up to the farm. We used to box in the evening after supper. So Francis Hughes, Francis Marshall, came over to visit me, and so after supper we were going to box. And of course, I knew all the rules and whatnot because I'd been boxing. So we were putting the gloves on, and they put them on to her first. And she was up jumping around imitating the boxer, and they were putting them on Dick. Dick was going to box with. Before they got Dick Saji all down, did his nose and his nose bled. Oh, he was so mad at her, and then she says she wants to box, and she doesn't even know. You wait till.
So you follow. I know you follow Colebrook school sports.
I don't remember. I didn't go to see my brother play, and that was a championship team that George Kelsey was on.
Which brother was that?
That was Ted.
Ted.
They went down. They didn't lose a game, and in those days was a champion cup. There's a cup of the high school for the county or for this area, and they had that. and they had lost a game, and they went down to the university, and they played Rochester the first night, and they were not in classes in those days, and they beat them. And the second night, they lost to Manchester.
Think a little Colbert playing Manchester,
Yeah.
you know.
But there were no classes then, you said.
No
You
classes.
just played.
When I was playing in high school, the last of us playing, we went to Berlin to play, and they got the classes then. And I don't remember, it was so hot in that gym. And we went down by train, and we stayed with the students in Berlin. They took us, you know. And I don't even remember getting my hands on the ball. I think I was 4 was 10. So after that, they began to have Colebrook played Berlin here in the town hall before they went into classes, and I think the score was something like 120 or something. Yeah. So you see, then they decided to put them in the classes.
It's the only fair thing, really.
Yeah. You see, I was my interest in that was because of the boys.
Yes, your brothers. Yeah. Your brothers. Did all your brothers?
No. The first basketball game ever held in the town of Colebrook was my brother brought me. My oldest brother, Arthur, my grandparents had a little money, and they thought that they would send their grandchildren away to school, but when I was going to be 30. But Arthur got to go anyway, and he went to Dean Academy, which was a prep school down outside Boston. And in those days, they didn't come home like they do today. They came by train. And my grandparents were running the Colebrook house, so he called them up and asked them if he could bring a boy home for Christmas. And they said he couldn't. They lived at the hotel, and my parents lived in the town. So when he came, he had a whole basketball team. And there wasn't any baskets or anything, and they got some hoops and put them up down at the town hall, and they had some people practice up a little bit. They bought a ball with them. That was the first basketball game in town.
What year do you suppose that could?
Well, he was at Dean Academy before I was born. I think I've got his graduation pin and his things from Dean Academy, and I think it was 1910.
1910. So then they just kept playing.
Well, I don't remember.
No, because you were too little.
I don't remember, but I suppose eventually it came. You know, somebody got a ball, and then, you know.
Cars in high school. They're driving nicer cars than I am.
Me too. But that's bad.
Are we off right now?
No, you're on.
Oh, we're on. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you follow the Celtics and
Yes.
all in baseball also?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you like?
They had a very good year this year.
The Celtics?
It was either.
Oh.
No, I like Eric Munn for us, and I like it sounds prejudiced, don't I? I like the white guys. Last year I got so used to the black guys. Come spring, that black hand going up after that ball. I think the white man ought to start hollering discrimination. Even the Red Sox, you watch them, my goodness, they didn't just have any black players hardly at all now. They say that white men won't cut or anything. White men can't jump or something.
Yeah. But you like the Celtics? I mean, over the years you've enjoyed. I mean, they kind of had their heyday.
Yeah.
More a few years ago. But.
Yes, they did. I watched them since television. I watched when Tommy Heinsohn was playing. Stuart and I used to watch.
You're on cable. You're on what?
I have a satellite.
Yeah, I thought you did. So you tune right in, John.
Well, no, some of you they play games with you. They sold a part of the Red Sox to Nesson, and the other part they sold to Channel 68. And Channel 68, I don't know. We can't get that.
So you don't know?
No.
It doesn't seem
they
right.
do it, no, they do it to make money. Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I scraped the bottom of the barrel to buy this satellite because I figured I wouldn't be going out too much. And I bought that damn satellite. 2 weeks later, my furnace went.
Oh, jeez.
But my daughter said they were glad I got the satellite first.
Because you wouldn't have, and think of the joy, you got out of that.
Yes, I enjoyed it.
And you follow baseball too?
Yes.
Yeah. And you follow hockey?
I don't have time.
No.
I mean, I do some, but not a lot. When they play at the Olympic Games, I do. But I don't understand. The puck moves so fast in hockey that I don't know where it is at. And that isn't. It's the same way with football. I like the crowds and the band and blah blah blah, but if you're not brought up on a sport, they don't know the
Makes an awful difference.
I think it does.
Yeah.
Probably it does.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly one of, I guess, Colebrook's probably best fan.
Probably.
I guess, probably. And I know you always say every year we should be bringing home a trophy, but someday we're going to.
Well, they promised me. Marjorie and I always said we didn't know if we could wait much longer. Marjorie's gone, so.
Well, we've got a pretty good baseball. Here we are. The chances are we might end up, number one for the playoffs?
They won't win.
Well, so we don't get the competition.
See, but baseball's a little different than other sports. On a given day, anybody can win in baseball. See?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, because baseball is a little different than basketball. If it's a rainy bad day, some days they don't hit well, or if it's too hot, or there's a lot comes into baseball. But of course, there's more people involved in baseball, which is perhaps good.
Yeah.
I think down through the years we've seen an awful lot of good sports games here. We haven't got that down there in that gym yet. And Abby kind of got after me because she says, you talked all your life about these boys getting you a banner, and she says, I went out cheerleading and I brought you home a banner. They were second in the state that
That's right.
And she says,
That's
so
right.
she couldn't help rubbing it into me a little bit. She says, Nan, you talking about the boys getting you a trophy.
You had to agree, I'm sure, that
Yes.
they've done a good job. Yeah.
We played a trick one time. Mr. Irwin was a little bit afraid of an assembly. Did you have him?
In high school,
Yeah.
I had.
Well, he was a little bit afraid of an assembly. I don't know if you knew that or not, but he was of a rally.
Oh.
So they got after him. One didn't have one, and so he had a couple. But he asked me if I'd have charge of them. I'd do one because he said he didn't know what doing was. So anyway, it was when Gary Pickney was playing. Was he in high school when you were?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you must remember it then. I've got a picture somewhere of it, and so he was a big game coming up that night. And by the way, Gary's one of the guys that got 1,000 points.
Yep.
And so in the afternoon, Mr. Irwin and I planned it up. He said Gary would play kind of low. People, I don't know whether he went somewhere. I don't know if he could be out of class. But anyway, the opening of the rally was in the old main hall with the stage, and Gary came in all wrapped up with a broken leg. Oh my God, the kids just about died. It was this important game.
Yeah.
But they said, that doesn't matter. We've got somebody to take his place. And I put on my gym suit. I had it 4 o'clock at Teachers College and came in bouncing the ball around.
Oh, that's.
You remember that?
I don't remember it.
Maybe it was. Hey, hollered and hooted. He's got a replacement.
Yeah,
It was
Funny.
I went down to the alumni game. When was it?
Thanksgiving?
Well, wasn't it just about
Oh.
play?
Yeah.
And I was going under the basket, and all at once I felt somebody grab me and give me a hug, and it was Gary.
Yeah.
I think it's been a good thing for an awful lot of boys and girls too. Somehow I can't get quite as excited about girls' games as I can boys. I played too.
But I think it's a wonderful influence on kids. This new club, though they've got going now, I'm very interested in this Keep Club.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that is because not everyone can play sports.
Mm-hmm.
See, Abby didn't like sports.
And
She didn't like sports.
so really this...
Because that broke my heart, but Nancy Carolyn used to tell me Bill didn't. And when they got together in their family with the boys interested, she said, nothing for Bill to do, and she used to get after him about it.
Yeah.
So Abby's always getting after me and said this life after basketball, and
Two things like
she
that.
likes the theater. And
Is she Keep Club type?
she was in the keeper.
She wasn't. Look how well they did when they had the big meet. Was that down in Springfield, Susie?
Yes. Yeah. Well, they do a lot of community service.
Don't they?
They've really done a great job.
I think they were just starting it, I think, when she belonged. I think they went up to the county and did some things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And it's been a good thing for a lot. I think it's a good thing for a lot of kids. Not everybody, even if not everybody can play.
Oh, they can.
They, not that many on
I
the
think in a
team.
small town, sometimes we get them thinking that way. Yeah. Because it makes a lot of entertainment for a lot of folks.
Sure. Yeah. Do you pretty much go out in any kind of weather for a basketball game?
Mm-hmm. I don't go out of town unless I go with somebody.
Yeah. But the local games,
I go and get taken.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my other eye done. I have 20/20 vision in this one, and I hope to get it in this one. So my eyes are going to outlive my body.
What is this, cataract?
Yeah, I had this one done, the vision in that eye's 20/20. And this one I'm going to have done the 25th of June. He told me I'd be amazed at the operation and how it's improved since I did this one.
And how long ago did you have that?
Oh, probably 3-4 years ago.
And just in that short time.
Mm-hmm.
This might be a good time to introduce your hobby here of hooking rugs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does your eye? Can you still do that?
Yes.
And I noticed you're still quilting.
Yeah. The worst thing for my eye was making that thing up there, the balsams. Margaret gave that to me at Christmas time, and it was just before I had my eye done. Just about died.
That's hard.
Oh, I made a mistake, and Nancy took it. Nancy Sims, and it was in the windows of the balsams that go across there, and she fixed it, and then she got another mistake, and I had ours gave me a light that went right down onto it, but I shouldn't have been trying to do it.
No, not with your eye.
My eye was awful bad right then. I couldn't show you my whole hand.
Is that? I'm just gonna go take a look.
I'm gonna turn this off.
Okay.
You want to take it off the frame?
Well, is that easy to do? I'm intrigued by this. What we have here.
Oh, but
It's a work in progress.
Ellie's mother was one of the best cookers around here.
Well, she'd be thrilled to hear you say that. I don't know if she'd agree, but
I'm sure
I think that she was good.
Who?
My mother
Oh.
was very big on.
Oh. Now, what are these big strips?
Those are the swatches. There aren't many people hooking right now, and I don't know whether it's become too expensive for the young people or they don't have the patience. So you have a machine to cut it up. So
You do. Now, what is this? Is it?
wool.
It's wool. Okay.
So you can buy your swatches. A good hooker can get 12 shades into one flower.
It's luxurious. It's
Isn't it?
Yeah.
See, I did all of these.
Did you do that stool? That?
Yes.
Oh.
I did my family one.
We'll have to talk on this family
Yeah.
one.
Is this cool or
That's cool. There's
That's-
a woman who gave lessons in that.
beautiful? Did you take your lessons locally?
Yeah, Alice Converse taught the classes. Your mother took them.
Mm-hmm.
Ruth Walker, Charlotte.
Alice probably should be noted here. I mean, she was the very first woman guide in the state of New Hampshire. And she had this wonderful sportsman business, but then she also had this hooking, and
Wow.
she was wonderful.
She got a prize on a big rug that she made, and she couldn't figure out why. They couldn't figure out at first. She couldn't figure out why. She designed it, made it was a fly fishing rod, and she sold it to somebody in Connecticut for a fabulous price. And somebody said, well, how could she? She says, I can't figure out how I was able to do that. And the woman that she took her lessons from, that wrote the book, said, well, I can. She says, you live in a beautiful country, all you do is look at beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Now, what are you looking at to tell you what colors to put where?
You have to, well, I guess sometimes you can buy things, but after you work a while, you kind of use them.
So you're just, oh boy, that's beautiful. So that's real artistry.
See, sometimes the rug hookers the designers get carried away. I don't like all that stuff. And I have Esther Harrigan's coat, and it's that pretty shade of pink
This here?
for background, and I'm not going to do all those lumps. I'm going to just put that in plain.
No, what do you mean you have Esther Harrigan's coat? You have a wool coat that you're using?
She gave me, she gave it to me. She brought me up, her mother was a fabulous hooker. And she she brought me up all of her stuff when she died.
So people do, I mean, I know people do that with braided rugs. Sometimes they'll take old woolen things and use the strips. I think that's great.
Come on and see this one.
But this rug here was one that Charlotte Edwards started, and you finished it.
They gave it to me. It wasn't quite done. I finished it.
That's a nice tidy.
Yeah. This one was an old one Audrey got in, and the design is nice because it's primitive.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
This one here is buttermills.
Buttermills. That must have been fun to do.
Old fashioned. Each one's an old fashioned buttermall.
Look at the colors.
Isn't that great?
Brilliant blues and reds. The tape on.
Yes,
Okay.
it is. I think it'll pick us up. We were way on the other side of the room. But
With our heads down.
yeah.
Did you turn it off?
Nope, we're on.
Well, you
You're,
can.
you're gonna go in the other room?
Well, why don't you just go and look? You turn it off. You want to.
Okay. No. I'll put it right on, Rusty.
Well, what do you want me to tell you about it, or do
Oh, I just. Well, we're looking right now at that lovely hooked rug that you made for your family, and I hope we'll get a picture of that. It's just marvelous. Could you tell us about that?
Yes. This summer that I went down to down Maine to go to this Mrs. Nielsen's Colebrook school. Lynn Owen drew the pictures for me because I'm not artistic, and I took them down there and we set it up. Then I brought the girl up and she put them on the girl up. And the first one up here on the left is my mother's piano. She played the piano and played at church and at the old time movies and the Grange and whatnot. And she played beautifully, had 13 children, not one of us learned to play. Somebody asked me why I didn't. I said, well, if I did the dishes, she plays.
Yeah.
The next one is my brother Arthur, and he worked in the post office all his life, and then he tied flies. And the next brother is Harold, and he left Colebrook when he was a young man who went down to Boston, went to work for the Boston Ice Cream Company. So there's an ice cream cone and a map of Massachusetts. The next one is my brother Wendell. He lived in a farm down below town. And in later years, he went to work up to Ethan Allen as an electrician. And that's Ethan Allen and the sign for electricity. And they had to be some extra squares on account of the coat of arms, so I put in the name of Colebrook. And this brother over here, Glenn, was a janitor over to high school for many years. And then he went down to the University of Massachusetts, and he was a janitor there, and then he was promoted to mailman. He used to go and get the mail and deliver it around all the tourists. And the next one is the first girl in the family, and her name was Minnie. She was named for my aunt, my mother's only sister, and she collected Angelica plates. And her husband had a shoe store in St. Johnsburg all the years of their life, and I had a shoe for that. And she didn't like it. She said that wasn't hers, that was her husband's. Mm-hmm. So we changed the plate, and that was one that she did that came up the farm. And then the next one was Homer. He worked in the post office, and he also was a snowshoer. And the next one is the farm, and after we left the farm, my brother divorced me. And the next one is W1LYS, and that's my brother Stuart that was in the wheelchair for so many years, and he became a radio man and had to pass the test, and those were his letters.
So those was called
W1LYS. Yeah. And the next one was Charlie, that's Irvin's father, and Freeman and John, and he ran the theater for a long time, and that's the mask of the tragedy involved. The next one is yours truly with a school bell and the apple and the basketball. The next one is Dick with the IGA symbol and the basketball. And the next one is an extra square, and that's our sugar place.
Oh.
That's a tree with a bucket on it. And the next one is Gish, and she was a great skidoo enthusiast when they first came out. And the next one was an extra square, and I put on the E and my initials. And the next one was Kathleen. She'd always been angry at me because I said all I could think of for her was the number 13. Well, I told her she was a secretary, and I couldn't make a typewriter. And the next one is a Celtic cross for my father. Not the cross, the chaplain. And the Hughes coat of arms are many. And I don't know how you decide which one was yours. That's the one I finally selected.
Well, that really is really wonderful. And a lot of thought went into that to think of what would represent each.
Well, I put it in a little better.
Oh no, I don't.
She didn't like it.
Well,
Harry put it up for me. I put a backing on it, and we got the thing and put it up. I should take it down. I had it on the floor for a while, but it really was too nice to me.
oh yeah, you wouldn't want to do
Yeah,
that.
right. Then I made a rug for Dickie Frizzell, and he painted me the picture, Susie. That's the farm that we lived in. That's where Colleen lives now.
So you had sort of a trade.
Yeah, I cooked him a rug, and he painted me the picture.
Now, when did you learn to make rugs? First?
Well, I was teaching over there. They used to use my room. When were you in high school?
I graduated in 76.
76. Well, I don't know. I can't remember when that course was given. Can you? No. Let's see. When I went to Europe 68. Seems to me that we got that course about that time. She started it. It was New Hampshire Arts and Crafts that put up the money for the course, and she had 2 classes. She came down from Pittsburgh. And they had it in that big room of mine between the 2 front doors at night.
We've made so many. Is it something you would just do in the evenings when you didn't have a lot of papers to correct and
Yep.
that type of thing while you were watching TV?
Yeah, well, I had a brother that worked with me for a long time that had been in a wheelchair, and he learned to live and then got sick and he couldn't work. So he had that big room in there, and I was, I had to be here, so do these things.
You have a lot of talent.
Yeah,
That's funny. I don't think of myself as being talented
Oh, I
at
was
all.
just going to
I
say,
thought of your mother and Charlotte Edwards as talented.
No, you have a lot of talent.
you just said you weren't artistic, but I think it's obvious that you're very artistic.
No, Len drew it.
Well, I know, but to come up with the colors, it's still artistic.
Yes, I think it is too. Yeah. And then you did the quilting and still quilting away.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think I made about the little paper girl. We lost the paper boy, Tony, and we got a girl. She gave it up after a while. We now have the little boy in the street, Shelfrey boy. But she said she came in one day and said, "My mother wants to know how much you charge to make her a quilt." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you something." I said, "I don't charge for them." I said, "I give them to my relatives."
Yeah. Well, then, wouldn't you say that your thimble collection goes right in with your hobbies?
Yes.
Doesn't it?
Yes,
It kind of seems like a wonderful thing. Can you see them there, Susie?
Yes, and I was admiring. Whoops, this one that I just dropped on the floor. Whoops.
There's a woman up in Canada, a friend of ours gave me that, and her quotes were Germans. And see how much that was used.
Oh yeah, it's dented and
The only problem with this, you have to clean
decorative.
them, and I don't clean them as much as I used to. Margaret gave me a nice one.
Is that Margaret Saul's?
I tried to find some way to catalog them. I couldn't come up with any way. And somebody told me to put them on a computer. Well, I don't know. See that little teeny one, Susie? That's a doll symbol. See that little teeny one there?
Yeah. Now, what are these? What kind of material?
That is.
That's very unusual. I've never seen. They're very pretty.
Harry and his wife went down around the Panama Canal and they got this one for me.
Oh, look at that.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. It was in heat and this. And I think Piggy Mom's got that on New Brunswick. That's a pretty one. Yeah.
How many do you think you have?
I think I must have around 200.
Around 200.
I've got a book. Audrey, Betty bought me a book, and I tried to catalog them all. See that one? See that's the little one you can tell.
Yeah. Oh, they're beautiful. I mean, I'm sure lots of these are silver. Sterling.
See, I have one gold one. That's probably the most valuable one there. I think that's worth $75. That was Harold's wife's, and it came from Norway. Wow. See the little cluster of grapes? Look at that. See? And place to put your initial.
Oh, how pretty. Look at these unusual. I've never seen them.
And that's a thimble. That's a thimble. That's a thimble. And believe it or not, this is a thimble case.
Is that old?
Yes.
It looks.
Yeah. Probably got it somewhere in history. elsewhere that's brought them home from different countries.
That he's gone to.
And is this a printer's
Yeah.
imaging?
It's a neat thing to do.
It's a great way to
The
display
guy
it.
that used to ride with me from Littleton, from Lancaster, finally, one Christmas he sent me home and they're all these crazy little things, see?
Wow. Oh, what a pretty
And
place.
there's one there. Oh, there's one up there from Seoul. Did you see that?
Yes, I picked that up.
He said that he and the ones with writing on them, that,
I'll bet.
and then these are little pencil cases.
There's one there that says Toledo.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That one, see, that one is the credential.
Credential.
Sometimes I would get some, and that is dirty, and you can clean.
Mm.
That's funny, that one my neighbor gave me. She got it when she was in Washington, I think.
Just like a ceramic and silver.
Yeah.
And I don't know what this other.
Oh, you know who sent me two last winter was E.J. Roy. Do you remember him?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's now on a trip to Africa, and he told me he'd get one there because you should have to get one from Africa. Look at that one. Isn't that a pretty one?
Oh, yes.
See, these are some of the ones that else was getting.
How long have you been collecting thimbles?
Well, I don't know. I guess it just started like.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you start as a child and you really don't know it's a
No,
collection
I
until someday you look around and say, "Look how many I have."
Now, plant is that I took it the other day and put it someplace. So that one is, I think that's awful pretty. And cost that $3 worth.
Oh wow! Oh, look at that.
That's the one that DJ sent me from down. That's good, and from Gables. I thought this one was awful pretty.
Yeah.
Now, when you quilt, do you use a thimble? Yes, I'm using one that's got wording on it, and I shouldn't be, because they're worthwhile.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess we're gonna wind things up, but we want to hear a few words about your family and.
Well, I just think a lot of them. I was very proud to have one named after me. Her name is Marguerite Wiswell, but they're going to call her Maggie. And when I was little, my mother would not allow them to call me Maggie because at that time Maggie was an old Irish harridan. It wasn't an especially nice name. But I think now it's kind of a cute name.
I think it's a wonderful name. It's a very popular name too.
Yes,
I
it
think.
is.
Yes.
What were you called when you were little?
I'm at home.
Marguerite.
They weren't allowed to call me Maggie.
Or you weren't called Rusty when you were a little girl?
Is that school time when you got your name?
Well, when we went to high school, I was awful bashful. You can't believe that probably, but I was. I chewed my fingernails, and I had red hair and freckles, and I thought I was the least important of anybody in the world. And we had this famous home ec teacher, and she said the first thing we ought to do, we were freshmen, was all get a nickname. So Frances was Green, and mine was Rusty because of the red hair. Ilsa McGinn, we had red hair, and she was Reddy. So we got that's how we got the
That's
name.
how you got to
Yeah.
be Rusty.
Yeah.
Is that? No, I never knew that. And then
I had reason to do that. I was in a class, when we graduated, there were 32. It was the biggest class up to that time to graduate, and with 3 doctors in it. So you see, you could easily be intimidated.
wow, who were the 3 doctors?
Dr. Swell, Dr. Parsons, and Dr. Cross.
Right. Right. That was quite a class, wasn't it?
It was.
Really quite a class. Yeah. Well, you certainly have. How many grandchildren do you have besides Maggie, or including Maggie?
Well, I have 11 great-grandchildren.
That would be 11 greats.
Yeah.
And then how many grand?
Well, in grandchildren, I have
This is really putting
I
it to
have
the
Kathy
test.
and I have Kathy and Peggy. That's 2.
Two.
And Betty's 3 boys.
And Betty's 3 boys, so you have 5 grands.
3 boys and 2 girls.
Yeah. And you got your great your daughters. And yeah, you're very fortunate having them live right in town here.
Yes.
I know I feel fortunate to have my boys. You know, it's a wonderful thing. We're lucky.
Yes, we are. That's what Alice tells me because hers are in Florida.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I'm sure that Susie's folks feel the same.
Oh,
How
of course
fortunate
they-
they are to have her.
Well, it's
Yeah,
You know,
mutual,
It is mutual.
You can watch them go through school, and Like if you have trouble, they're there.
Yes.
There was a man went down yesterday and handed Tommy $100. Was a man went down, took his van, filled it up with gas.
Great.
That wouldn't happen in the city, would it?
Probably should say that. Tell me what she's referring to there.
Yeah. What?
Well, they found that the boy had some
This is
sudden emergency operation.
very scary time. Oh,
Imagine the fellow being in there from 5 o'clock to 12.
Scary. Really scary. But all's well that ends
Yes,
well.
yes, and we're fortunate. There's 11 children, and there's never been any great.
Well,
That's nice.
Tiffany,
Do
do you think we want to call it Tiffany?
I'll tell you, if I lived it much longer, developing more grass, I'll let you know.
You'll keep us posted. Keep us posted.
You see, there's no need of people retiring and being bored.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's no need of people retiring and just sitting down and whining.
Well, there's so much to do and all kinds of volunteer work to do or anything that interests you.
I don't volunteer very much. I guess that
You volunteer your time all over the place.
Yeah, I think you do.
Yeah,
I think people just enjoy hearing you speak or whatever you. I think the legislature work is almost volunteer.
Yeah, almost. Next door to it, Susan.
So. Can you?
Susie, do you mind? I have a question I really want to ask Rusty. Sure. If you had it all to do over again, Rusty, what would you do differently?
Do the same thing I teach school.
There you go. Now that's the sign of a good teacher that can teach all those years and still have the
every day was a joy.
There you go. Now what could be more gratifying?
But you see, I didn't have any trouble with discipline anymore than your mother did. I always thought that maybe the reason I didn't was because I was brought up in that big family, and we had seniority, and we had this mind if the others spoke, were on a job doing something. My father didn't hesitate to shake us or spank us on the butt, but at the same time, we knew that we were deeply loved.
And I think your kids in school knew that too, and it makes that.
If I had to really get after some kid in school, when I went home at night, I felt just as bad as a kid.
You got a little final question?
I think I'm all set. I mean, we could just keep talking all day. But
you kind of questioned out. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun, though.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, very much.
I feel very proud to think you want her.
Oh, everybody wants you.
Well, we may come back. We don't know.